Hey everyone. Hope you're all doing well. We're all about bringing high-quality web novel audiobooks to life, and most of our content is completely free to enjoy. Just a quick note, web novels and web novel audiobooks aren't the same thing. Simply reading a novel out loud doesn't always make for a great listening experience. That's why I go through multiple rounds of rewriting and careful editing for every chapter to make sure the narration flows naturally and immerses you in the story, just like reading it yourself. These audiobooks are not just direct copies of the original novels. I've adapted them for a smoother, more engaging experience. And to be fully transparent, these adaptations are made for commercial purposes, so some chapters are paid content. But don't worry, this process is fully copyright compliant. I do all of this because I truly love web novels and audiobooks. I'm a huge fan, and this story is one of my personal favorites. YouTube update: recently, YouTube flagged some of our content for including mature themes, realistic violence, and darker story elements. As a result, we've decided to stop uploading anything that violates YouTube's guidelines. If you'd like access to the full, uncut versions including the more intense or mature content, you can find them on our Patreon page, where we upload everything first. Available now on Patreon: I Am a Legendary Boss audiobook, Versatile Mage starting with the White Tiger Pendant, Naruto the Wind Calamity, the Necromancer is amassing troops like crazy in the apocalypse, the mighty dragons are dead, Naruto, leader of Hidden Grass Village, Naruto Uchiha's Unserious Saga, your lord has a screw loose, Apocalypse I can see the health point bar, killing monsters drops loot, Starsea Fleet Age of the Lord, my monster fuses everything, Naruto, I traveled with a max level account, Fate in Bleach Unlimited Blade Works, killed for 100 years in Hueco Mundo, Aizen invited me to Soul Society, the world conquest giving birth to become a god, my master only breaks through on the edge of death, Bleach the Invincible Slacker from Rukongai, Naruto's Special Shop, One Piece the strongest female pirate cruise, Reborn as Danzō's grandson, must I offend the entire ninja world, Naruto starting with snatching the Mangekyo Sharingan, Naruto Card King, in Hueco Mundo with Shindu template, Naruto the Hidden Danzō, my journey as fourth Kusagakure, Naruto Troublesome Ninja Haruto, Naruto the Hyuga Mastermind, Bleach the strongest Shinigami, Bleach the 5th Division Captain, Fate Ultimate Antagonist, Fate of DXD, Fate I Heard After Death, you can ascend to the throne of heroes, Fate DXD Archer Reborn, Fate beginning with Type Moon, a Berserk Heart, Fate Grand Order Insert, One Piece take the Uchiha clan to the Grand Line, One Piece don't worry, I'm a doctor, building harem and dungeon with monster girls, DXD, Multiverse the day-to-day life of the Sephiroth hero, I'm the bad guy but heroines are obsessed with me, in Naruto, I have an affair with Mikoto and Kushina, many children bring happiness, a shameless start, Naruto Reborn with a Tenseigan, Naruto sleeping invincible, One Piece, life choice ask me to kiss marine goddess Hina, reborn as the genius son of the richest family, start by eating jacket fruit model, jacket human devil fruit, the days of being the richest man in the ninja world, the Witcher and Madara Uchiha, villain I possess the dragon Yang Dao physique, all saintesses turns into villainesses, all beautiful girls want to stick with me, interdimensional farming in another world, Naruto from Hidden Leaf Village to One Piece, and more. Most of our content there is free, and it's the best place to follow and support our work. The default audio speed is set to 3x, but if that's too fast for you, just let me know, I'm happy to adjust it. Got a favorite web novel you'd love to hear as an audiobook? Drop a suggestion. I'm always open to new ideas. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter, X for the latest updates, new releases, and behind-the-scenes content. Thanks so much for your continued support and happy listening. Chapter 1, Being Born as a Celestial Dragon, an Incomparably Noble State. Marijoa. The World Government Headquarters, a luxurious castle located in the center of the city, close to the Five Elders Conference Hall. Inside one of the luxurious rooms, slapping sounds can be heard. On the bed, a handsome young man can be seen, with a beautiful face, golden hair, and fair skin. Currently, this young man is naked, without clothes, his hands holding the waist of the mother of the king of the Aqua Kingdom, and his penis is fucking her from behind. Hilda, the king's mother, who used to be the queen before her husband the king passed away, then took it upon herself to rule the kingdom for 7 years before abdicating and allowing her son Richard to take the throne. She is a noble person and has a very high status as a former queen and ruler. She also has a respectable title that everyone calls her by, which is the Queen Mother. However, compared to the young man who is currently enjoying her body, which is a celestial dragon, her status is nothing compared to him. The former queen and ruler was lying down while her full, milky, and soft ass was raised facing the thrusts of the young man who continued to fuck her from behind intensely. With each thrust of the young man, her ass rippled and her full, milky breasts swayed. Not far from the duo, There was a beautiful woman lying on her stomach on the bed. She seemed to be unconscious. Her black hair covered her features and flowed down her back, which was covered with crystal beads of sweat. The woman was not wearing anything and her slender, firm ass was highlighted, facing the ceiling of the luxurious room, but what is very special and obvious is the amount of cum covering her. There are smudges of cum covering her hair and there is also some on her back. It seems that the doer of this act gave special treatment to her firm ass as there are red marks from the slapping and several threads of cum covering her ass and finally her buttocks. It seems that the person who have sex with her wanted to distinguish her body as his property and painted her body with his semen, but that's not all. If one looks at her shapely buttocks, they will find that there is a white liquid leaking from both her vagina and her asshole. This woman lying unconscious on the bed is the queen of the Aqua Kingdom who ascended the throne not long ago. She used to be the most beautiful woman in the kingdom and a noble lady. Then, she prepared for her marriage to the king who was crowned not long ago. On her wedding day, unexpectedly, a celestial dragon, the most noble existence in the world, attended. After welcoming the celestial dragon to the kingdom, the king decided to complete the marriage in the presence of the celestial dragon Chaos. Then, after she officially became the queen that night, her wedding night, the king sent her with the former queen, who was his mother, to the celestial dragon's room. Perhaps he thought that in this way he would make the celestial dragon satisfied with him. It is very likely that if the king had a daughter, he would also send her with the duo to serve his highness as his maids. Queen Ghislaine's eyelid twitched, her half-open mouth white semen leaking from him. It seems that the celestial dragon Chaos has invaded her 3 holes. She opened one of her eyes for a moment to look at his highness fucking the queen mother before she fainted again due to the huge wave of fatigue that overwhelmed her. After a while, when she regained consciousness, she found his highness lying down while the queen mother cleaned his highness's penis with her mouth. At the same time, there was a white substance leaking from both holes of the queen mother. "Your highness, come here, both of you." She nodded and then approached him with a smile and hugged him. The same thing happened with Hilda. Although she was close to losing consciousness, she knew that there was still one last thing she had to do. So she crawled towards his highness and hugged him. Both queens pressed their bodies to Chaos' chest. Chaos wrapped his hands around the 2 queens. One hand held the mature queen's breasts and the other held the young queen's firm ass. Then he closed his eyes to sleep. Time passed quietly inside the luxurious room. In the morning, Chaos woke up comfortably and found a blonde figure in front of the bed, who gave Chaos a gentle smile. "Your highness, you're awake." Chaos nodded, letting go of the sleeping bodies around him and yawned. Starsea showed a gentle smile as she noticed the 2 sleeping figures on the bed. "Your highness, did you enjoy the company of your maids?" "Not bad, although I prefer you more." Starsea showed a happy smile. "Thank you for your compliment, your highness." When Chaos got out of bed, she walked over and said, "I'll help you change your clothes." Chaos didn't respond. After waking up, Starsea served him. After changing his clothes, he washed himself with the help of 2 maids, then went to the living room to enjoy a delicious breakfast. Caviar, milk, bread. Each item was specially prepared, exclusively for nobles. Only such food could be served on the table of the celestial dragons. That's right, Chaos is a celestial dragon. At the same time, he is also a reincarnation. He has traveled to this world for 16 years now. Born as a baby and grown up to this day, Chaos had already become accustomed to being a celestial dragon. He'd grown used to his own nobility. After learning about One Piece from his previous life, Chaos asked the 5 elders to transfer Starsea to him because he needed a strong bodyguard and also had physical needs. She became Chaos's personal maid. An ordinary celestial dragon wouldn't have had such an option. After all, although the celestial dragons have noble status, it wouldn't be easy for someone like Starsea, who holds an important position on a happy street, to be reassigned. But Chaos' identity was more noble than the average celestial dragon. He is a direct descendant of Im's line, nothing less than that. Because Chaos was an adult in his previous life, he had been precocious since childhood, possessing the mind of an adult even as a child. Additionally, he was probably naturally gifted in this life, so before he was even 3 years old, he caught the attention of Im himself. He was accepted as a disciple by Im, and it's possible that he might take over Im's position in the future to become the king of the world. Im's throne wasn't always meant to be occupied forever. In fact, Im himself had entertained the idea of relinquishing it. After sitting on the throne for 800 years, without the so-called desire for power, as long as a successor had abilities matching Im's, it wasn't impossible to take over the crown of Im. This kind of transition wasn't a first among the core celestial dragons. Today's 5 elders once had such qualifications. But in the end, they all failed. However, this also shows that even if Chaos fails in the future, he is still destined to become one of the 5 elders. Such honor in status allows Chaos to obtain even the little remaining pure gold within the world government, should he desire it. But unfortunately, due to such a high status, it was not easy for Chaos to leave the world government headquarters. He was only allowed out a few times. Given his importance, he could not be taken risks. At the same time, Chaos was destined to spend more time studying if he wanted to assume the position of World King. This study wasn't about strength. It was more about various aspects. Etiquette, economics, governance, and more. Not a single subject could be neglected. As for strength, it wasn't really a priority. Because in the eyes of him and even the 5 elders, strength is the least important thing for the world government. After all, the world government already has enough loyal forces. And Chaos, who will eventually obtain pure gold, will have ample time to train and become stronger. After finishing his breakfast with the assistance of the maids, Chaos was served by Starsea, who now donned her teacher's attire. Her legs wrapped in black silk, she approached Chaos with a smile. "Your Highness, it's time for your studies." "I know." Chaos nodded slightly, his expression indifferent. Although Starsea looked quite enticing in her current outfit, Chaos had enough self-control to know when to do what. He wouldn't let desire carry him away. However, at this moment, Chaos' expression shifted slightly, revealing a subtle change. Starsea noticed it right away. She subconsciously showed deep concern and asked, "Your Highness, is something wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" Her status was now very high. At least higher than when she was in Cypher Paul Zero Agents or Happy Street. And her work was extremely easy. The most important thing was that she knew Chaos' identity and how extraordinarily noble it was. Unlike those brainless celestial dragons out there who relied solely on their status, Chaos was a truly noble being, not an idiot, not foolish. He was a genuine leader. Serving such a person made Starsea feel extremely fortunate. Because as long as she fulfilled her role and built a good relationship with Chaos, when he took the throne in the future, she would reap significant benefits. She might even rise to a true high-level position in the world government. But at the same time, if something happened to Chaos, as his personal bodyguard and maid, she would be the first to suffer. If something happened to Chaos, everyone in this castle would have to die. Regardless of their status or strength. "Don't worry, I'm fine." Chaos shook his head. While comforting Starsea, he also lifted her delicate chin, smiling as he admired her smooth, pale neck. "I just thought of something interesting." "Your Highness, as long as you're fine," Starsea said with relief, allowing Chaos' hand to move. But she was still concerned. "If you're feeling unwell, you can skip today's studies. After all, today's class is just etiquette, and I know you've grown tired of these lessons, Your Highness. It's true the class can be skipped, but I can't rest." Chaos narrowed his eyes and smirked. "Go make the arrangements, I want to see the ancestor later." The ancestor? Could he mean that person? Starsea immediately thought of the figure who dwelled among the flowers. Someone she couldn't approach at her level. But thanks to Chaos, she had some understanding. And meetings with that individual usually signified important matters. So Starsea nodded, not daring to neglect her duties. She immediately left, while the mother-daughter pair from the West Blue Kingdom, gifted to Chaos, continued to serve him. "Your Highness, do you need to rest?" "Your Highness, shall we give you a massage?" Their soft voices rang out. Chaos waved them off. "No, leave. I have some thinking to do." "Yes." Chaos' serious expression caused the mother and daughter to leave quickly. Soon, only Chaos remained in the spacious and resplendent hall. Tapping his fingers gently on the table, Chaos' eyes flickered with excitement. Logically, with Chaos' identity and knowledge, such emotions shouldn't have been visible on his face. But he couldn't help it, his cheat had finally arrived. And this cheat suited his current status perfectly. It was a double door. A gateway to other worlds. Chapter 2, Double Piercing Door, Shocking him. Double piercing doors can be regarded as a treasure. They have always existed within Chaos' body. It was also thanks to the double piercing doors that Chaos was able to travel to this world. However, after helping Chaos, the doors fell into a deep sleep due to the exhaustion of energy. Only now did they awaken. Chaos was stunned earlier because he received a message from the double piercing doors in his mind. This message contained an introduction to the powers of the double piercing doors. From this information, Chaos came to understand the true power of the doors. Generally speaking, double piercing doors lead to a single world. But his double piercing doors lead to countless worlds. They just need to be unlocked. And each time a door to a new world is opened and the world inside is conquered, that world can be integrated into Chaos' world, and he will receive additional rewards. In other words, this cheat is incredibly powerful. And it's very well suited to Chaos. Why, you ask? Very simple. First of all, Chaos is a celestial dragon, an extremely important figure among the celestial dragons. This means Chaos has enormous resources at his disposal, which he can use as he pleases. With vast resources, it means that Chaos can quickly develop the other world. The benefits of opening up another world need no further explanation. Secondly, Chaos himself already has the qualifications to become the king of the world. But after obtaining this door, the qualification becomes indisputable. Because now, Chaos is bound to become the king of the world. That's right. Chaos intends to reveal everything to him. He has no concerns. For example, being coveted by others for his double-piercing doors or something similar. Don't even think about it. It's not going to happen. Chaos' identity speaks for itself. His future, at the very least, is guaranteed to be one of the 5 elders. If nothing else, he'll be one of the highest power holders in the world government. Chaos himself is tied to the world government. In this situation, Chaos possessing the double-piercing doors will not only fail to make the 5 elders or him fearful or envious, it will surprise them. This represents an even brighter future for the world government. Chaos, without the double-piercing doors, is already qualified to be a king. With the double-piercing doors, and because they are bound to Chaos, he becomes even more unique. Anyone with common sense would know how to make the right choice. Revealing the truth to him carries no risks for Chaos. On the contrary, it will make his position more secure and elevate his status. If this was when I had just traveled to this world, I probably would have remained cautious, worried about others discovering me. Chaos laughed softly. After so many years of experience and learning, his perspective had expanded greatly. He knew how to maximize his own interests. After preparing in his mind for the conversation he was going to have with him, a knock came at the door. It was Starsea, returning. Your Highness. Come in. At Chaos' command, Starsea opened the door and walked in with a respectful expression. The arrangements have been made, you can head to the garden now. All right, I understand. Chaos nodded, stood up, and allowed Starsea to tidy his clothes before heading out of the castle. Your Highness. The 2 wide-clad bodyguards at the door immediately bowed their heads and saluted. They were also Chaos bodyguards, at the rank of Vice Admiral in the Navy headquarters, born from Cypher Pol Zero agents and raised by the world government, loyal to the core. Chaos didn't respond and walked straight toward the garden. Behind him, the bodyguards and Starsea followed closely. Along the way, Chaos' expression remained indifferent, without the arrogance and opulence that often graced the faces of other celestial dragons. Yet he exuded an aura that drew the attention of countless onlookers, who all saluted him respectfully. Your Highness. Greetings, sir. Your Highness Chaos. Whether it was patrolling guards, or officials handling high-level government affairs, or even other celestial dragons. When they saw Chaos, they all bowed their heads respectfully. But Chaos merely smiled and didn't respond. After a short while, he arrived at the garden. There was only one gatekeeper here, an admiral-level powerhouse. Your Highness Chaos, you may enter now. Understood. Chaos nodded and stepped into the garden. Starsea and the bodyguards remained outside, as they did not have the privilege to enter. Passing through a dark corridor, Chaos reached the end and opened a door. A scene filled with flower gardens unfolded before his eyes. Butterflies fluttered. In the midst of the flowers sat a figure in a white gown, with a veil and folded legs. Her figure exuded both elegance and coldness, a combination that somehow didn't clash. Butterflies danced around her, making her look like a fairy among the flowers. The true ruler of the world government. Having undergone the immortality surgery, she had lived for 800 years and would live on forever. She was also Chaos' ancestor. Come, sit and talk. Im's gaze fell on Chaos, and after staring at him for a moment, she spoke slowly, patting the grass beside her. Her voice was cold but carried an inexplicable allure. Chaos nodded and sat down next to him without hesitation, smelling the faint scent of flowers, which made him feel relaxed and content. Im turned her head to look at him, gently stroking his head, and asked like an elder, "You've never taken the initiative to come to me before. This time, is there something important you wish to discuss?" Her eyes, having witnessed the world's development for 800 years, held a depth beyond measure. But fortunately, Chaos had no intention of hiding anything. Instead, he nodded truthfully and waved his hand. Suddenly, a closed golden door appeared behind Chaos. Im frowned slightly. "Have you eaten a devil fruit?" Chaos shook his head. "This is not the power of a devil fruit, ancestor." "Not a devil fruit?" A trace of doubt flashed in Im's eyes. If it wasn't a devil fruit, could it be something passed down through blood? She had no memory of such a power existing in the bloodline of the celestial dragons. But she didn't ask further. She merely watched Chaos, knowing that he would explain. And indeed. In the next moment, Chaos raised his hand and snapped his fingers lightly. The door trembled. Then it slowly opened. Colorful lights radiated from it. The corners of Keio's mouth turned up in a smile. I think you've already guessed it. This is a very special door, and on the other side of this door lies the new world. Oh, and by new world, I don't mean the second half of the Grand Line, but a truly brand new world. As soon as the words fell, suddenly stood up, her purple pupils locked onto Keio's in disbelief. What did you just say? Chapter 3, The Future King of the World Government. Certainly. Keio's nodded and smiled slightly. I wouldn't deceive my ancestor on this matter. And on the other side of this door, there are not just one, but countless worlds. These worlds only need specific conditions to be opened. Upon hearing this, Im's pupils constricted once again. She then spoke in a deep voice, take me over there to have a look. All right. Keio's nodded, stood up, and stepped through the golden door with him. Suddenly, they felt a moment of disorientation. And then, a desolate city appeared before them. The ground was stained with dried blood. There were numerous corpses scattered around. Abandoned vehicles and more. This was clearly a modern city. On the streets, figures could be seen wandering aimlessly. Keio's quickly recognized them. They're zombies. He murmured, his eyes gleaming. So, this is a post-apocalyptic zombie world. Im was shocked by the sight before her. Though some elements of this world were somewhat familiar to the world of pirates, much of it felt foreign. The tall buildings that reached hundreds of floors, strange items, and the general layout were nothing like anything in the pirate world. Im had lived for centuries, and with one glance, she could already tell that this was not her own world. As Keio's had said, it was indeed a new world. At the same time, she heard Keio's murmur and asked, what do you mean by a post-apocalyptic zombie world? Keio's explained, it means this is a world that has been through an apocalypse, and the reason for the apocalypse is these zombies. They devour all living creatures. Originally, they were humans, but they became like this after being infected by a virus. The virus is highly contagious, which caused almost 90% of the world's population to turn into zombies. I see. Im nodded, though a new question arose. But how do you know all this? It told me. Keio's gestured toward the golden door behind him. Of course, this was a lie. It was unlikely that Keio's would tell him that he was a reincarnation from another world. Revealing the existence of the double-hole doors was a good thing. But being a person from another world reincarnated into the One Piece world as a celestial dragon? That was out of the question. Hearing this, Im nodded and looked at the world once again. A flicker of interest appeared in her eyes, a slight tremor in her heart that had remained dormant for centuries. In the past, she had found everything dull, but had clung to the throne out of responsibility. Yet, now, with the appearance of this new world, she began to find the world more exciting. Simultaneously, she instinctively began to consider the benefits she could reap from this new world. So, as you said, if we want to develop this world, the first thing we need to deal with is these zombies, correct? Keio's nodded. Yes. Im raised her slender hand and pointed her index finger at a zombie. Without any unnecessary movement, there was a slight whooshing sound. Bang. The targeted zombie exploded instantly. Im said indifferently, these so-called zombies are weak. Keio's smiled helplessly and spread his hands. The weaker they are, the better, don't you think? After all, it was Im. No matter what these zombies were, they were once ordinary humans. Their terrifying nature stemmed from their sheer numbers. Not to mention the possibility that more advanced zombies might appear later. But who was Im? The supreme ruler of the world government, the true master of this world. Someone who had undergone immortality surgery. With immense power, it was no exaggeration to say she stood at the very top of the world pyramid. With her strength, even advanced zombies would seem like ants before Im. You're right. Im glanced at Keio's with approval. Weakness means we can claim this world with minimal sacrifice. But now, we should return. Exploring this world is not our task, we'll leave it to others. As rulers, we only need to wait for the harvest. Hearing this, the corners of Keio's mouth lifted. Those words were not said casually. For Im to speak this way meant Keio's decision to reveal the truth had been correct. With the double-piercing doors, Keio's didn't need to undergo trials. In the future, Keio's was destined to become the true master of the world government. Because with the double-piercing doors, Keio's had the qualifications and the resources. Understood. Keio's nodded with a smile, left that world with him, and returned to the garden. Once back in the garden, Im didn't hesitate. She pulled out a denden mushi and made a call. The line connected quickly. A voice came through. Master Im. Keio's recognized the voice immediately. It was one of the 5 elders. Im gave an order, come to me. Yes. The elder replied promptly, hanging up the call. Afterward, Im looked at Keio's and said, the 5 elders will arrive soon. When they do, I want you to explain the double-piercing doors to them. Understood. Keio's nodded with a smile, offering no objections. After about 15 minutes, the 5 elders arrived. Facing him, they knelt on one knee and respectfully said, "Master Im." X5 after Im gave them permission, the 5 elders stood up and nodded to Chaos. The elder dressed in a Taoist robe, holding a dagger-like weapon in his arms, spoke first. "May I ask why Master Im has summoned us? Is there something important?" Im turned to Chaos. "Explain it to them." Chaos nodded and, under the suspicious gazes of the 5 elders, introduced the double-piercing doors and explained their function. He also told them about his and Im's recent visit to the New World. Like him, the 5 elders were stunned. But their reactions were even more dramatic. They all stared at Chaos in shock, their faces filled with disbelief. A new world? Since you and Master Im have already been there, it must be true. But even so, it's hard to believe. Indeed. This is great news. A new world represents a brighter future for the world government. I see, so this is why Master Im called us here? The 5 elders let out a collective sigh of relief. Normally, Im did not summon them unless it was a significant matter. Before arriving, they had worried that something serious had occurred. Now it was clear, something serious had indeed happened. But in the eyes of the 5 elders, this was even more important than the rise of the Pirate King or the Revolutionary Army. A new world. In their hands, the world government would become even greater. As they thought this, even the 5 elders couldn't suppress their excitement. Im nodded slightly and then spoke calmly, "One more thing." Hearing this, the 5 elders immediately knelt on one knee before him once more. "Please, speak." Im pointed toward Chaos. "From today forward, Chaos will be the next king of the world government." The 5 elders exchanged glances. But without a moment's hesitation, they nodded in agreement. "I agree." Seconded. Seconded. Chapter 4, Big Action, The Sea Shakes. Nobody had an opinion. They left the decision to Im alone. Even the 5 elders, at this moment, agreed that Chaos would be the next king. Chaos already had the qualifications. And after showing the double-piercing door, he was the only candidate in the world government. If someone was dissatisfied, there would be no need for Chaos to act himself. The 5 elders would be the first to deal with it. Because what Chaos represented at this moment was the future of the world government. And it was a bright future. Chaos grinned and nodded, signaling that he understood. At the same time, excitement inevitably stirred in his heart. After all, this was the king of the world government. In the world of One Piece, one can only imagine what this identity represented. After confirming this matter, the next priority was the development of the new world. This was the top priority right now. Im directly ordered, everything in the new world, going forward, will also be dominated by Chaos. The 5 elders agreed. "All right then, Chaos, come and introduce more information about the new world," Im said, reminding him, not the world we've seen before, but more of the new world. Upon hearing these words, the eyes of the 5 elders brightened, and they looked at Chaos expectantly. More new worlds. In Chaos's earlier introduction, they had learned a bit. But they still didn't know how to open more new worlds. Chaos recalled the information in his mind and said, "Opening more new worlds is very simple. There is only one way." Facing 6 pairs of gazes, Chaos uttered 2 words, "Faith." "Faith?" One of the 5 elders frowned, contemplating the meaning of the word. Another elder quickly caught on and asked, "Do you mean the kind of faith that believers have in gods?" "Yes." Chaos nodded. "Only with enough power of faith can this door to more new worlds be opened." Hearing this, the blonde 5 elders stroked his chin thoughtfully and said softly, "If it's that kind of faith, it shouldn't be difficult for us to obtain. After all, we are already known as the descendants of gods. Next, we can establish a religious organization centered around you and promote it across various seas. In no time, we should be able to gather enough power of faith." "No, that's far from enough." Chaos shook his head and denied it without hesitation. "Perhaps this way, we can open the second world, but what about the third? The fourth? You may not realize that, in the future, if we want to open more new worlds, we'll need more faith. The people in our current world aren't enough. The most important thing is, the behavior of the celestial dragons needs to change." The sword-bearing elder looked puzzled. "What do you mean?" Chaos sneered, sitting cross-legged beside him, and said leisurely, "You should know that the behavior of the celestial dragons has led to their current reputation. No matter where they go, people only feel fear and hatred. Now tell me, how much faith do you think I, a celestial dragon myself, can gather with this kind of reputation? Moreover, even if there are countless people who believe in me, if some scandal about the celestial dragons is exposed, wouldn't those believers lose faith instantly? Disappear completely? They would. They definitely would." The 5 elders, with their wisdom, could instantly see the answer. But they said nothing, waiting quietly for Chaos's next words. Chaos spoke calmly, We need to rectify this. When the celestial dragons appear before the world in the future, they should only show their good side, not the bad. I understand. The tall, long-haired elder nodded slightly, stroking his beard. Next, we will order that no celestial dragons are allowed to leave the headquarters of the world government. At the same time, we will adjust the training plans for the celestial dragons, grooming them to be elites. How about that? The corner of Chaos's mouth curled up into a smile. Yes, but not all of them. Leave some just as they are. Why? One of the 5 elders asked, puzzled. Chaos chuckled. Don't you think that if a celestial dragon commits a grave mistake, and I punish them severely, publicizing it widely, it would help me gather more faith? Ah, now they understood. The 5 elders suddenly realized. Looked at Chaos with even greater admiration. Just imagine. The common people of the One Piece world already despised and feared the celestial dragons. Every time a celestial dragon made a big mistake, the people would be furious, but there was nothing they could do. But if, at that moment, Chaos, a celestial dragon himself, stood up to punish the wicked celestial dragon harshly, claiming to protect the civilians, how would the people see Chaos? With gratitude? With faith? Both. Chaos only needed to keep a few bad celestial dragons. And allow these individuals to be the ones to highlight him in the future. Highlight his divinity. Carry out his plan by sacrificing the lives of the celestial dragons. This was a particularly vicious plan for the celestial dragons. But did it matter? Not at all. The 5 elders understood this as well, but they didn't care. As long as it helped Chaos open more new worlds, it was worth it. With the 5 elders nodding in agreement, the decision was made. Next, Chaos focused on the development of the new world. He said, 3 things. First, form an army. In the new world, the land is vast. When the time comes, an army will be needed to guard it. The Marines aren't suitable for this. Second, send a scientific research team to the new world to study zombies. Third, transfer some forces from the Marine and Cypher Pol Agents organizations to conduct an initial exploration of the new world. The 5 elders nodded. The old man with the sword asked, these 3 things are fine, but why study zombies? After all, as you said before, these zombies seem extremely weak, and ordinary people can easily kill them. Is there any benefit to studying such beings? Of course there is. Chaos laughed. How many zombies are there in the new world? Hundreds of millions. If we can develop ways to become immune to the zombie virus and control the zombies, wouldn't they make a perfect workforce? Zombies don't get tired, you know. If we succeed, we could replace slaves with zombies. And if we free the slaves, I think it would be much easier to gather faith, don't you agree? Upon hearing this, the 5 elders' eyes lit up. Tireless zombies as labor? And there were hundreds of millions of them. It seemed like it could work. The 5 elders exchanged glances and then nodded. Agreed. Agreed. Soon after, the meeting ended. But the entire world government began moving. Marine leadership. Cypher Pol Agents forces. All of them received orders to report to the headquarters of the world government immediately. With such a large-scale mobilization, it was impossible to keep this hidden from prying eyes. The world trembled. Countless people were shocked. Damn it, what is the world government planning with such a massive movement? It's one thing for the top members of the Cypher Pol Agents organization, but even naval headquarters, aside from the fleet admiral and the 3 admirals, many vice admirals and rear admirals are being summoned. Are they planning to attack the new world? I've got a bad feeling about this. Somewhere at sea. A red Murloc looked at the news in the newspaper with a gloomy expression. No, it looks like we have to wait. Chapter 5, 3 things shocked everyone. A week later. Mary Ejos. In a conference hall. In front of the huge oval conference table, the 5 elders sat down one after another. Afterwards, the commander-in-chief of the World Government Army, Kong, entered. Then came Marshal Sengoku, who arrived at the World Government yesterday, followed by the 3 admirals, Staff Officer Crane, and finally officers from Cypher Pol 1 agents to Cypher Pol 9 agents, and some other high-level department heads. As soon as he sat down, Sengoku rested his chin on his hands, feeling secretly startled. It was the first time even Sengoku had seen such a solemn meeting. Although he had come to the world government to participate in conferences in the past, none of them could compare to this one. It used to be just a one-on-one meeting between them, Marine, and the 5 elders. But this time, high-ranking officials from almost every department under the world government were present. What on earth happened? What could have caused such a big move by the world government? Sengoku was puzzled and looked at Marshal Kong. Kong felt Sengoku's gaze and shook his head slightly. Seeing this, Sengoku was even more startled. Even Marshal Kong doesn't know? Kong was the previous Marine Marshal and now served as the commander-in-chief of the entire army. Even within the world government, He was considered to be at the core level. But if even Kong didn't know the content of this meeting, Sengoku realized the seriousness of it. With all the members present, everyone in the conference room looked toward the 5 elders. Cough, cough. The old man with the figure-8 beard coughed, without wasting any time, and started the meeting. Today's meeting is of great importance. He began. It concerns the future of the world government. Before I reveal the specifics, I will announce 3 things. Just be quiet and listen. Having said that, the old man picked up a document and spoke in a flat tone. First, as of today, we will begin forming an army. The world government will invest significant funds into this, likely comparable to that of the Marines. What? The first statement alone left everyone astonished. An army? What a joke. Why did the world government suddenly want to form an army? Although there was already an army on the Red Line, it was purely symbolic and not a true military force. But what the 5 elders mentioned now clearly referred to forming a real army, at least one on the same level as the Marines. What was the purpose behind this? Were they planning to start intervening in the affairs of countries worldwide? After all, armies weren't necessary on the Red Line. Everyone was confused. While they were filled with astonishment, they were also filled with doubt. Silence. Another elder said in a deep voice. At his words, the room fell silent. Everyone turned their attention back to the elder with the figure-8 beard. The first announcement was already shocking, and the next was unlikely to be any less significant. Indeed. The elder with the figure-8 beard continued. Second, Marine funding will be increased. The purpose of this funding is to enable the Marines to strengthen their dominance over the 4 seas and the first half of the Grand Line, to ensure as much stability in civilian life as possible. The increase in funds this time is about half of the previous budget. His words rang out loudly. But again, everyone was stunned. Everyone, including Sengoku, was dumbfounded. If Sengoku hadn't known that the Marines hadn't achieved anything particularly significant recently, he would have thought they had made some monumental contribution. The Marines were already enormous in scope. In recent times, the world government had even been deliberately suppressing the Marines, fearing they might overshadow other departments and inflate their sense of importance. But now, not only were they increasing the Marines' funding, but there was also the mention of ensuring the stability of civilian life worldwide? Was that something the 5 elders would actually say? If anyone else had said such a thing, they would have been dismissed as out of touch. Given how cold-blooded the top officials of the world government were, could they truly care about the lives of civilians? What a joke. It was absolutely impossible. But in the face of the serious 5 elders, no matter how baffled everyone felt, they could only keep their doubts to themselves and wait for answers. Third, a new Ministry of People's Livelihood will be established in various departments, including the Marines. The role of this department will be to investigate the living conditions of civilians in different sea areas and address civilian difficulties. Members of this department will be dispatched directly by the world government, and celestial dragons will be in charge. PFFT. At this, many who were drinking water spat it out in shock. If the first 2 announcements were surprising, this third one was incomprehensible. Setting up a Ministry of People's Livelihood was fine. After all, it was a good initiative. But putting celestial dragons in charge? Was this some kind of joke? The world government should be well aware of the reputation of the celestial dragons. Or was it that they simply didn't care if civilians in various sea areas lived miserable lives? Faced with the suspicious gazes of many, the 5 elders remained calm, and the elder with the sword spoke up. The celestial dragons being dispatched will be elites specially trained by the world government. So, there's no need for concern. Phew. Hearing this explanation, everyone breathed a sigh of relief and nodded in understanding. If they were elites, then there shouldn't be any issues. Everyone also knows that among the celestial dragons in the world government, although most of them are arrogant and domineering self-proclaimed descendants of gods, there are also a few who have been carefully cultivated by the world government. The core position of the world government. Their abilities were even superior to some of the elites in the Marines. Still, the sudden formation of this new department was puzzling. The world government's past attitude towards civilians had been so cold-blooded, treating them like mere statistics. Hundreds of thousands of deaths had never been a concern. Now, this sudden change in treatment towards civilians was hard to believe. But the 5 elders offered no further explanation. Instead, they continued, now, for the real subject of this meeting. But it will not be us to explain it. At this, one of the 5 elders motioned to a black-clad bodyguard behind him and gave the order, go and request His Royal Highness Eos to join us. Yes. The bodyguard replied respectfully before turning and leaving. At the conference table, Sengoku and the others looked on with astonishment. Your Highness? To hear that word come from the 5 elders was truly shocking. For the 5 elders to address someone as Your Highness. Whoever it was must hold an extremely important position in the world government. A position even on par with the 5 elders. Chapter 6, Celestial Dragons? Same thing. In Chaos Castle. A golden door stands in the hall. 2 bodyguards in black stand guard beside it, allowing no one to approach. Suddenly, the light flickered. Chaos emerged from inside, bloodstained, followed by 2 bodyguards in white. One of them was Starsea, and the other was a powerful figure specially assigned by the 5 elders from the Cypher Pol Zero Agents organization. This figure was a true admiral-level individual, cultivated by the world government to reinforce its hidden strength. Because Chaos' status had become more important than before, and his own strength was not yet sufficient, his security had become even tighter. Phew. Using these zombies for practice is really quite good. Chaos exhaled, a refreshed expression on his face. Thanks to the double passing gate, Chaos didn't need to continue his research but instead focused on improving his strength. He frequently fought zombies to hone his combat skills. He learned fighting techniques and explored the other world along the way. While Chaos was empty-handed, Starsea and Zero behind him were carrying various items. Oh, it's worth mentioning, Zero was another bodyguard of Chaos. Full name, Speed, Zero. He was a Parimsha user with the Speed fruit. It might seem ordinary. But in fact, he was specifically selected by the world government for this purpose. Zero was already a strong physical fighter, but his primary role was not combat. His mission was to protect important individuals like Chaos, which was why the speed fruit was chosen for him. With the terrifying speed granted by the fruit combined with his own strength, he could protect Chaos and escape even if he encountered 2 admiral-level opponents. Unless, of course, they ran into someone as fast as Kizaru. Your Highness, are these things useful? Starsea held a pile of comic books, video discs, and other items in her arms. Chaos casually picked up a book, glanced at it, and said, these other world cultures might seem useless, but they can be quite valuable. Sometimes, even a small comic book can help strengthen the world government's dominance. It just depends on how we use it. I see. Starsea nodded thoughtfully, placing the items down. Your Highness, you must be sweating. Shall I prepare some hot water for you? Chaos was about to nod. Then there was a knock on the door. Come in. Chaos spoke, snapping his fingers at the same time, making the golden door disappear. A maid entered the room with a respectful expression. Your Highness, the 5 elders have sent someone to invite you. The meeting has already begun. Have the Marines arrived? Chaos smacked his forehead and said, I see. I'll be right there. Starsea asked. Your Highness, do you still need to take a shower? Sure. Chaos waved his hand, signaling Zero to leave first, and continued. These guys, let them wait first, I'm not used to the bad smell. Hey, yes, then I'll go right away. Starsea walked towards the bathroom happily. The reason for her happiness was naturally that she could serve Chaos. This was a good opportunity to build a relationship with Chaos. Soon. The water was ready. Inside the luxurious bathroom, Chaos was sitting while Starsea was on her knees in front of him, gently holding his penis with both of her hands as if it were a precious and fragile object. Behind him, there was a mother and daughter pair washing his back, and not far away, there were a group of beautiful maids with towels around their waists, just waiting for His Highness's signal to come forward to serve him. Starsea gently passed her hand over his penis, her eyes showing tenderness and kindness. Let me serve you, Your Highness. She lowered her face and then placed a kiss on Chaos' cock. As a response, Chaos' cock twitched in response. She smiled, then opened her mouth and swallowed his cock. As Starsea's warm and wet mouth engulfed his cock, Chaos couldn't help but close his eyes in pleasure. The maids couldn't help but look on with jealousy etched on their faces. They were all eager for the chance to serve Chaos as well. Meanwhile, Starsea continued her work, showing off her skills as she expertly used her tongue and lips to stimulate every sensitive spot on Chaos' cock. Her hands gently caressed his balls, massaging them in time with her mouth movements. Chaos stroked Starsea's hair, indicating his approval and enjoyment of her service. With a wave of his hand, he removed the towel to reveal her beautiful body, then grabbed her breast, kneading it between his fingers. I don't have much time, so don't be lenient with me, okay? There's still a meeting he has to attend, and although he can be late, it's better not to be too late. Starsea's lips made a soft popping sound as she released Chaos' cock from her mouth and looked at him with a smile. Don't worry, Your Highness. He could tell she was serious now. She took his throbbing member in her hand, giving it a few strokes before returning it to her warm, wet mouth. But this time, she swallowed it whole, swallowing it deeply until it reached the back of her throat. As someone who mastered life return, Starsea could control her body as she pleased. Very good. 2 words to describe how Chaos was feeling right now, but it wasn't over yet. She relaxed her throat muscles, allowing Keio's cock to slide in and out easily as she bobbed her head up and down on him. Her hands continued to massage his balls, squeezing them gently before rolling them between her fingers. She lashed out with her tongue, teasing the underside of Keio's cock as she took him deep into her throat. Keio's closed his eyes in pleasure. One of the reasons he preferred Starsea besides her beauty and ability to do things was because she takes him to depths others couldn't and provided him with heavenly pleasure. Slop slop, a slurping sound echoed through the shower room as his cock began to twitch inside her throat, a sign of his rapidly escalating pleasure. She gently placed her hands on his thighs, urging him to relax more and let his balls empty their contents down her throat. Kaos didn't object. He ran his hand through Stassea's hair and let her take care of everything. All he had to do was relax and focus on the pleasure she was giving him. Stassea's tongue wrapped around his highness's cock skillfully and rolled on the underside of his cock. She felt the cock throb strongly and understood that the pleasure was close to exploding from his highness's cock. So she pressed her face against his pubis while her throat swelled from his highness's cock. Her nose pressed against his pubis and her lips reached the walls of his cock. She moved her face in circles left and right while her tongue slid out of her mouth to lick his balls. Kao's cock reached its peak with the intense stimulation. As the immense pleasure flooded his mind, Kaos grabbed Stassea's head tightly and held her in place as he shot his cock spurt after spurt of white liquid into her throat. Moments later, his cock calmed down and Kao's grip on her head loosened, indicating that he had reached his climax. Starsea looked at him with glassy eyes, sucking his cock one last time to clean it off and make sure there was not a drop left in his balls, and then she asked him expectantly, "Did I do a good job?" "The best, you know how to please me." He put his hand on her cheek and gently caressed it. Starsea smiled happily, then closed her eyes and moved her cheek against his highness's hand. Keio's smiled and looked at one of the maids and said, "You, bring that bottle." Starsea opened her eyes and watched with a smile one of the maids bring a bottle to his highness, who drank it, and without any surprises she saw his penis, which was flaccid a moment ago, grow and harden to return to its original state. He looked at the empty bottle and couldn't help but admire his status as a celestial dragon. A celestial dragon doesn't need to hold himself back. If he wants to ejaculate, he can just drink one of these bottles and he will immediately recover to his climax. A celestial dragon can enjoy all the pleasures of this world as he pleases. These bottles are specially made for celestial dragons, and the taste has been improved for the comfort of the celestial dragon. It's a pity that my physical fitness is weak and I need to rely on these bottles. He sighed slightly. But he wasn't really sad. "Don't worry, your highness, I'm sure you'll become strong in the future." She grabbed his cock, then rubbed her white and soft cheek against it and asked with a smile, "But your highness, do you still want a second round?" "I still have some time for this, so make it quick." She nodded, knowing very well the fastest way to make him come. Then she got up to show off her fit and seductive body and leaned over to show off her beautiful ass. "I always keep it clean for you, your highness." She lowered her ass towards his hardening cock and asked, "Can you?" "Of course." He aligned his cock with her asshole, then without hesitation she lowered herself, forcefully impaling herself on his cock. Keio's cock penetrated her warm and tight asshole all the way and reached deep inside her anus. Sitting on his lap with his cock deep inside her asshole, she moved her hair strand behind her ear confidently while moving her hips forcefully up and down. Most women can't take his cock inside their asshole efficiently because of the pain it causes them, but for her it was a piece of cake, and also as a life return master she could control every muscle and part of her body, thus providing massage and pressure to his cock inside her anus and giving him pleasure that other women couldn't give him, thus becoming his favorite causes. Breathing became irregular, wet and warm and tight, with every inch of his cock being skillfully massaged inside her asshole. His breathing quickened under the amazing mix of sensations his cock was receiving. His hands groped her soft pale ass while his eyes were fixed on the amazing sight of his throbbing cock sliding in and out of her asshole. He could feel the tightness of her asshole, and with each slid in and out of her his cock sent a wave of pleasure through his brain. Starsea smiled, either knowing he wouldn't last long under her skills or she felt his cock close to coming. She pushed her round ass hard against Keio's erection and he entered her anal passage as deep as he could. For the finishing touch she rubbed her round ass back and forth on his lap to stimulate his nerves to climax. Just as she expected, Keio's cock couldn't take it anymore. Damn, his breathing became rapid. Keio's grabbed her waist tightly to hold her in place while his cock exploded load after load deep inside her asshole and painted her insides white. Starsea felt Keio's cock ejaculating load after load inside her and smiled and waited quietly for him to finish. After a few moments, when his cock finished ejaculating and her asshole was filled to the brim with white liquid and the hands around her waist loosened, she tilted her face towards him and asked him with a smile, "I hope you are satisfied, your highness." One look at his face that radiated satisfaction and she was sure that she did a good job. Very satisfied she smiled, but she wasn't done yet. As someone who used to run the pleasure street, she knew that physical satisfaction wasn't enough and that psychological happiness must also be taken care of or the man would soon get bored. She rose gracefully from his cock and closed her asshole without allowing even a single drop of his highness's essence to come out. "I will not let a single drop out, Your Highness. I will accompany you all day, accomplish the tasks you assign to me, protect you, and meet other people. All this while your sacred essence fills my asshole. Good. One words that expressed his satisfaction. He slapped Stassea's ass and watched her ass ripple from the slap, but not a single drop came out of her asshole. Stassea's cheeks flushed. This way His Highness would always be satisfied with her being near him, and she would give him the feeling of conquest that all men love in every time he look at her. She knelt in front of His Highness and joined the mother and daughter pair in cleaning His Highness and looked at him with a loving look. After a while, Chaos finished taking a shower and left feeling relieved inside and out, and then changed into a white robe before heading out toward the conference hall. On the way, he picked up a comic book and started reading. To be honest, while Chaos had explained the purpose of these comic books to Starsea, he was also curious about the comics in the zombie world. After all, Chaos never forgot that the world of One Piece is a comic world. If there was a version of One Piece in the zombie world, it would undoubtedly cause a huge uproar. Luckily, Chaos found the answer. The graphic novels in the post-apocalyptic zombie world were unlike anything he had seen in his previous life. They were clearly unique to that world. In time, I can alter these comics, adding content that promotes me or the world government's virtues, and distribute them. Not only would it be a business venture, but it would also help me gather influence. Chaos thought to himself. At this moment, there was a shout. Hey! You bookworm! Get out of the way! Don't block the path of Saint Leopold, or you'll regret it. Chaos looked up. In front of him was a convoy of celestial dragons. It resembled an ancient carriage, but instead of wheels, 2 tall slaves carried it. Behind the carriage, several cages held what were clearly freshly purchased slaves. The one who had spoken was a servant leading the way at the front. It was obvious the servant was new to Mary-Ejo's. He had directed his words at Chaos. How dare you? Stassea's face instantly darkened, as though she couldn't believe someone in Mary-Ejo's would dare offend Chaos. Once she regained her senses, she appeared in front of the servant in a flash and slapped him hard. Smack! Blood splattered, and a few teeth fell out. The servant let out a pained groan and crashed into the distance. Chaos waved his hand, and Zero disappeared. In the next instant, Zero reappeared, holding the servant by the neck. Bending slightly, Chaos pointed at himself. Were you talking to me just now? To be honest, Chaos was both surprised and amused. And slightly angered. There were still people in Mary-Ejo's who dared to provoke him? Did they think he was an easy target because he lived modestly? With that thought, a sneer formed on Chaos' face. Gah! You dare hit me? Do you know who I am? I'm the servant of Saint Leopold. You struck me, but you're really striking Saint Leopold, a celestial dragon. You've insulted a celestial dragon. Just wait. Saint Leopold won't let you off. Despite Chaos' questioning, the servant was not intimidated. Covering his bleeding face, he spat back at Chaos with a resentful glare, as though he was already planning revenge. Saint Leopold? Chaos murmured softly, the sneer deepening. Without the needing instructions, Zero grabbed the servant's arm and tore it off with a vicious yank. Rip. The entire arm was torn off. Starsea swiftly followed by driving 2 fingers into the servant's throat, silencing him. After this, both Starsea and Zero knelt on one knee before Chaos. Your Highness, it was my negligence that allowed this lowly servant to offend you. Please punish me. Chaos shook his head. He had no intention of blaming them. His gaze drifted toward the carriage. Perhaps due to the commotion, someone inside was now awake. Who's causing all this noise outside? Don't they know I'm resting? With an angry voice, the curtain was lifted, revealing a hooded, overweight figure. A celestial dragon. A celestial dragon who had just returned from Sabati Archipelago and was used to throwing his weight around. But when he saw Chaos, the arrogance and fury drained from his face, replaced by fear and nervousness. Why Your Highness Chaos? Leopold, right? Chaos asked calmly. He had never seen this celestial dragon before. After all, there were many celestial dragons, and it was impossible for him to remember them all. Why yes, that's me. Swallowing nervously, Leopold glanced at his servant, now lying like a corpse, and a sense of dread crept over him. Chaos didn't respond. Instead, he motioned for Leopold to come closer. Leopold hesitated for a moment but got out of the carriage and approached Chaos with trembling restraint. Why Your Highness Chaos, what can I do for you? Relax. Chaos interrupted him with seemingly soothing words. He raised his hand and gently removed the hood from Leopold's head. This is your servant, correct? Yes, he is. Very good. Chaos nodded, tossing the hood aside, and spoke calmly. Your servant offended me. That's a capital offense. But I won't deal with him personally. That would lower my status. So, I'll deal with you instead. Understood? What do you mean? Leopold looked puzzled for a moment. But Chaos didn't explain. Under Leopold's confused gaze, Chaos raised his hand and slapped him across the face. Smack! Leopold was sent flying. A bright red handprint appeared on his face. For a moment, everyone was stunned. Then, the entire street went silent, the atmosphere dropping to freezing. Everyone lowered their heads, not daring to look directly at the scene. Some even considered gouging out their own eyes. After all, sometimes seeing things you shouldn't can cost you your life. Chapter 7, Boy of Three Sisters, A New Era is Coming. Compared to the silence of others, Leopold covered his face and looked at Chaos in disbelief. You dare to hit me? Chaos looked calm and did not respond. He just waved at Zero. Zero made a fist with his right hand and immediately punched the servant in the chest. Boom, the ground trembled slightly. The servant's heart sank in an instant, and he died on the spot. Perhaps Chaos was less brutal than the other celestial dragons, but now, he was one of them. In his position, he sought his own authority. Since he was a celestial dragon, one thing was certain in this world: celestial dragons cannot be humiliated. Otherwise, there would be a price to pay. At the same time, Chaos approached Leopold step by step. He kicked out, and under Leopold's terrified gaze, his foot struck Leopold's abdomen, sending him flying. Looking at Leopold, who was clutching his stomach and moaning in pain, Chaos snorted coldly. Discipline your servants better in the future. Next time, it won't just be a slap and a kick. Do you understand? Upon hearing these words, Leopold didn't respond. Chaos frowned slightly and kicked him again. Leopold immediately responded in fear. I understand. Chaos stopped talking and turned to leave. But after only a few steps, Chaos stopped again. He gazed at the cage with a playful smile on his lips. Interesting. Facing Chaos' gaze, the three girls in the cage huddled together, trembling. Behind them was another box, and without thinking, Chaos knew it contained a devil fruit. And this fruit, which appeared in the original series, was the sweet fruit. That's right. The three girls looked familiar, and Chaos recognized them immediately. The three sisters of Amazon Lily. Boa Hancock and the others. He hadn't expected to meet them here. Chaos immediately looked at Leopold and said, I want these three slaves, and that devil fruit. Is there a problem? No problem. Leopold quickly shook his head, even adding a flattering tone. You can take whatever you want, even all my slaves. Just 2 kicks were enough to make him understand how terrifying Chaos was. Because anyone else who dared treat him like this, no matter who they were, he could kill them. Even summon an admiral. But not Chaos. Not to mention him, even if it was his father, Chaos could play him, and the 5 elders wouldn't care. Even among the celestial dragons, Chaos' status was much higher than his. Though he was in pain all over and felt humiliated, there was nothing he could do. Seeing this, Chaos nodded in satisfaction and waved to Starsea. Starsea immediately followed his orders, taking the devil fruit and leading the 3 sisters away. She walked toward Chaos' castle under Leopold's pained gaze. Afterward, Chaos also left. Leopold was left behind, raging helplessly. A while later, Chaos arrived at the conference hall. Your Highness, Lord 5 Elders is already waiting inside. Cypher Paul 9 Agents Chief Spandane, who stood at the door, said respectfully, with a fawning smile on his face. I see. Chaos nodded, gave the man a meaningful glance, and stepped into the conference hall. If he remembered correctly, Spandane was the father of Spandam. At this point, the man hadn't yet given up his position to his son. After all, this was 12 years before the plot of the series began. Although the man had appeared in the original story, to Chaos, he was just a small fry, not worth mentioning. With the sound of footsteps, those in the hall became aware that the person referred to as His Highness by the 5 elders had arrived. They straightened their backs and raised their heads in attention. Soon, the door opened. Chaos walked in. He glanced around, recognizing some familiar faces while others were new. Chaos, over here. This is your seat. The old man with the crescent-shaped beard said, motioning to the spot next to him. The sight made the pupils of Sengoku, Sora, and the others shrink. They even gasped. That seat was the head seat. And the 5 elders were seated on either side of him. This alone revealed much about Chaos' standing in the world government, higher even than the 5 elders. Hiss. This revelation made everyone in the room grow tense. Not only was it crucial to leave a good impression on the leaders, but the mere fact that someone so important was attending this meeting made it clear how significant the matter was. Good. Chaos nodded with a smile, taking his seat at the head of the table without hesitation. Where were you in the meeting? The old man gave Chaos a gentle smile, one that would leave most people speechless in surprise. Everything that needed to be said has been covered. The rest is up to you to explain. Alright, I understand. Chaos nodded, then looked over the group once more. After a pause, he began speaking slowly. This should be my first time meeting many of you, but it doesn't matter, we'll be seeing each other frequently from now on. I'm sure you all know my name, so no need for introductions. The purpose of this meeting, aside from the 3 things mentioned earlier, concerns the New World. Hearing this, everyone was confused. The New World? Are we going to launch a full-scale assault on the New World? Impossible. The sea has finally stabilized. If we launch an attack on the New World now, even if we win, it will do more harm than good, right? Yeah, and not long ago, the world government reached an agreement with some of the powers in the New World. Now is not a good time for an assault. Bang, bang, bang. Chaos knocked on the table. The room fell silent. Chaos said calmly, "You're all misunderstanding. The New World I'm referring to is not the second half of the Grand Line." Not the second half of the Grand Line? Sengoku frowned. Then, what is your highness Chaos referring to? Chaos glanced at the resourceful general and raised his right hand, snapping his fingers. A golden gate appeared behind him. Chaos said, "The New World I'm referring to is the real New World. The main purpose of this meeting is to form an initial exploration team for this New World. Some of you may still not understand. Let me be clear. Behind this gate is not a new world full of pirates, but a brand new other world we've never seen before." When he finished speaking, Chaos stood up, looking down at everyone with a serious expression. "Starting today, the world government's focus will shift to exploring this new world. I need all of you to give it your all. Additionally, I expect everyone to keep the contents of this meeting confidential. The consequences of leaking anything should be obvious. In short, be ready, because a new era is coming." Chapter 8, The Excitement of Nukes. Outside the conference hall, Garp wandered around Mari-Ejo's and found that it was the same as before. So, he casually made his way here to wait for the meeting to end. Although he could have participated in the meetings, he usually didn't like to think about things that wasted brain cells. So, he waited outside. Soon, a group of people came out of the conference hall. Garp spotted Sengoku right away, walked up to him, and asked, "Sengoku, is the meeting over?" "Yeah, it's over." Garp, curious, asked, "So, what was the meeting about?" Hearing this, Sengoku didn't answer immediately, his expression complicated, and there was a hint of shock in his eyes. The others around him looked similarly disturbed. Garp quickly noticed the strange atmosphere among them and couldn't help but be surprised. Has something really happened? Is the world government going to attack the New World? Crane nodded but then shook her head. Something big has happened, yes, but it's not about the New World. It's about another world. Garp frowned. Another world? What do you mean? Exactly what it sounds like. Let's go. We need to get out of here first. Barring any incidents, we'll have to stay here for a few days, Sengoku said as he patted Garp on the shoulder. Garp subconsciously followed, but, after a few steps, his eyes suddenly widened. Another world. Exactly what it sounds like. Are you serious? Even Garp was shocked at this point. Sengoku nodded, sighing. We wouldn't be like this if it weren't true. I don't know how the world government obtained this kind of ability, but there's no denying it, Garp. A new era is upon us. The changes that are coming might have an even bigger impact than Roger's famous words did. We Marines. We need to prepare ourselves. Inside the conference hall. After lighting a cigar and taking a puff, Chaos looked at the 5 old men in front of him. The one with the sword spoke calmly. As for the god-making plan, we've already given secret orders for it to continue. We'll also arrange for the Marines to take action soon. Do you have any plans? Chaos shook his head. No rush. After all, this kind of thing can't be achieved overnight. I don't yet have the power of faith. The top priority is to conquer the other world. After conquering it, that world will merge with ours, significantly increasing our territory. I'll also gain additional rewards. Chaos didn't hide this fact from the 5 elders or him. There was no reason to. The 5 elders were invigorated by his words. The sword-bearing elder frowned. That's indeed crucial. But what kind of conquest are you talking about? There are different ways to conquer a world, after all, and knowing the exact method could save time. Chaos provided a direct answer. 3 methods. First, cultural invasion, using the culture of our world to subtly influence and eventually dominate the other world. But this method isn't suitable for the world we're currently targeting. Second, forceful conquest, taking over all regions of the other world through sheer force. And third, source plundering. The first 2 methods were easy to understand, but the third caused some confusion among the 5 elders. Chaos explained, source plundering is a special method. In the other world, there are certain beings, either objects or life forms, which are derived from the world's core essence, or source. If we obtain or destroy them, we can take the world's power at its core. Without extracting the source, parts of the other world will be integrated into ours. As for the source itself, once extracted, it will merge the two worlds into one. I see. One of the elders nodded in understanding. So, do we know what specific items or beings make up this source? Not yet. Chaos replied. We'll only know once exploration begins. That's why we need to mobilize an exploration force as soon as possible. The sooner we explore, the greater our advantage. As he spoke, Chaos picked up a book he had brought earlier and tossed it in front of the 5 elders. What is this? Chaos smiled. Take a look. This is a weapon from the other world. It's similar to our weapons, but even more powerful. It's a testament to the wisdom of another world. The contents of the book were anything but simple. It described real modern firearms, guns, tanks, bombers, and more. It was a manual on military technology. But the most critical parts were about the missile system and nuclear weapons. While personal strength is crucial in the One Piece world, there's no denying it. Nuclear weapons, with their extreme destructive power, are terrifying to everyone. More importantly, the application of these weapons can differ between worlds. Some might think that the strong individuals of the pirate world wouldn't fear nuclear weapons. After all, what's a nuke? With the physical prowess of the top fighters in One Piece, they could likely escape before the weapon even hits. That's not entirely impossible. But here's the catch. Different worlds have different strategies. You might be able to dodge one. But what about 10? What about 100? If I cover an entire 10,000-mile radius, can you still run? With the destructive power of nuclear weapons, even someone like Kaido might not survive a direct hit. Unless his life force evolves to an even higher level. So, for the world government, nuclear weapons are an absolute game changer. As expected, after hearing Chaos's explanation, the 5 elders eagerly picked up the book and began flipping through it. Soon, their breathing became heavy. They suddenly looked up at Chaos, their faces filled with ecstasy, eyes burning with excitement. Excellent. This is incredible. These beings from the other world are so weak, but their weapons. Their power is unmatched. If these weapons are as powerful as described, then Pluton and Poseidon pale in comparison. Nuclear weapons, what a perfect name. Not just nuclear weapons. These other weapons can drastically enhance the world government's military strength. If we get our hands on them, the firepower of our forces will change dramatically. Yes. We must have them. I second that. The 5 elders discussed excitedly. Each of them was fascinated by the idea of modern thermal weapons. No wonder. These weapons might not enhance individual strength, but for power? The impact would be immense. And beyond weapons, so much more could revolutionize the world. Take airplanes, for example. With planes, travel across the 4 seas would become far more convenient. It wouldn't take days to travel from one island to another, but mere hours. It wouldn't take a month to cross from one sea to the next, but just a day or two. If the distances across the seas could be shortened, the rule of the world government would be even more stable. Even the revolutionary army would be left powerless. So, after reading the book, the 5 elders couldn't wait any longer. They picked up their transponders and began giving orders, one after the other. The final decision: in 2 days, the official exploration of the other world will begin. Chapter 9, 3 Mage Sisters, everything is ready. Leave the conference hall. Chaos returned to the castle, sat on the soft sofa in the living room, and while drinking cold beer, he picked up an otherworld book and started reading. Standing behind Chaos, Starsea massaged him with gentle fingers and just the right amount of pressure, making it quite enjoyable. Suddenly, Starsea asked, "Your Highness, aren't you going to meet the 3 girls today?" Chaos stared blankly, then slapped his forehead. "If you hadn't reminded me, I would have forgotten. In that case, let's meet them. By the way, bring that devil fruit too." "Yes, Your Highness." Starsea nodded quickly and immediately waved to a maid not far away. In Chaos's castle, Starsea could be considered the head maid, and the other maids followed her orders. After a while, footsteps sounded. Chaos raised his eyes and couldn't help but brighten. He stroked his chin with a look of interest on his face. Compared to their dirty appearance before, the 3 Boa Hancock sisters were now clean, dressed in black and white maid outfits, with their legs wrapped in white silk stockings that reached their knees, looking quite adorable. Although there was still fear of Chaos on their faces, when they approached him, the 3 girls lowered their heads and greeted crisply, "Greetings, Your Highness." "Good." Chaos nodded in satisfaction, pleased with their appearance, then said directly, "From now on, you 3 will stay here and serve me. Don't worry about anything else. After all, compared to other celestial dragons, I'd say I'm quite kind. By the way, what are your names?" Hancock spoke hesitantly. My name is Boa Hancock. Her sisters followed suit. My name is Boa Sandersonia. My name is Boa Marigold. Very good. Chaos smiled, nodded, opened the box held by another maid, and took out the devil fruit inside. As Chaos expected, it was indeed the love fruit. Do you know what this devil fruit is? Chaos asked Hancock with a smile. Hancock shook her head. Chaos explained, this is a secret treasure of the sea. Whoever eats this devil fruit will lose their ability to swim. The sea will make you weak. But, at the same time, you will gain great power. Sometimes, it can turn a weak person into a strong one in an instant. Since I obtained this devil fruit thanks to you, I will give it to you now. Take it. Huh? Give it to me? Hancock froze in place. She was moved after hearing Chaos's introduction to the devil fruit, but she never thought he would give it to her so suddenly. However, seeing Chaos nod, Hancock took the devil fruit. Afterwards, Chaos dismissed the three girls, allowing them to leave temporarily. After the figures of the three sisters disappeared, Starsea sat beside Chaos, holding his arm and smiling. Your Highness, you seem to like these three girls. Do you want them to serve you tonight? Slap. Chaos lightly smacked Stassea's behind, then looked at her flushed face and couldn't help but laugh. I don't like all three of them, to be precise. I only like one. While the three Boa sisters were indeed quite cute in their youth, it was only Boa Hancock who was truly beautiful. Even without eating the devil fruit, her foundation was strong, and she would grow into a great beauty. As for the other two, Chaos wasn't particularly interested. Is it Boa Hancock? Starsea guessed instantly. Chaos nodded. But don't worry, I'm more interested in you for now. Upon hearing this, Starsea wasn't shy but proudly lifted her head. It is my honor. So, Your Highness, would you like Starsea to serve you now? I'm a bit tired of reading anyway. Sounds perfect? Chaos thought for a while, nodded. Stassea's eyes lit up, then she placed her soft hand on Chaos's lap and gently rubbed the area where his cock was. She could feel under the cloth that Chaos' cock was gradually starting to awaken under her touch. Your Highness, is there a role or outfit you want me to wear to please you? She thought. Sometimes His Highness likes her to play a role or wear a certain outfit. Chaos thought for a moment, what about my obedient sex slave? Starsea continued rubbing the area between his thighs, thinking about what His Highness had said and how she could make it satisfying for him, then smiled. You want an obedient sex slave? Of course I can do that, and I will be under your thighs while you fuck me. She spoke with a seductive smile, and she felt his cock harden faster under her gentle caresses and words. He slapped her thigh and said, You have 3 minutes. Don't worry, I won't be late. She quickly left the couch, and his eyes only caught the blur of her speed. He couldn't help but think how great to have a woman submissive to you and fuck her every night while knowing that she had the power to blow your head off into a mist of blood with one slap. He smiled, then reached into one of his pockets and pulled out a small bottle, one of the potions that allow him to enjoy himself properly without his stamina hindering him. He removed the cap from the bottle and drank its contents, then threw the empty bottle aside and relaxed on the couch, waiting quietly for Starsea to return. It wasn't long before the door opened and Starsea entered, walking towards Chaos, her hips swinging seductively with each step. Your Highness, I hope I wasn't late. She sat on her knees on the floor between his legs with a smile. You were fast, I barely felt the time pass. Starsea nodded in relief, then smiled and placed her hand on his crotch. She started rubbing the place, her slender fingers felt the shape of his hardened cock from under the cloth, which meant that he was ready. Starsea took out a collar made of gold and covered with gemstone and had a chain made of interlocking diamond rings. She put the collar around her neck and closed it, then presented the chain to Chaos with a gentle smile. I am now your obedient sex slave. Chaos grabbed the chain and looked at Starsea between his legs with the collar around her neck and felt satisfied. His fingers grabbed Stassea's chin and looked at her beautiful face and then at her ocean-like blue eyes. He couldn't help but admire her beauty. Her eyes showed love towards him, but what impressed him most was her ability to please him and her keen observation. She took the initiative to do things that other women find humiliating just to please him and provide him with all possible types of pleasures. He wouldn't lie, he was very satisfied with her. Starsea is his ideal lover. He doesn't need to do anything. Starsea will make the man's most fantasies come true and present them to him without him even asking or forced to. Are you? Her eyes showed a maniacal love that seemed capable of choking anyone to death. I am your slave devoted to your service, Your Highness. My body and holes are a sheath for your sacred cock. I am a vessel and a piece of meat that you use whenever you want to empty inside it all your lusts and sacred sperms. I am your obedient sex slave who was created only as a tool whose only thoughts is the needs and desires of her beloved master. I am your obedient sex slave who loves you intensely. My love for you is like the sea, it can sink ships and islands. Just tell me what you want and I will be more than happy to provide it to you. Very good, do your job now of course, your highness, I am more than happy to do that. Her fingers unzipped his pants as she approached to free his cock. His cock shot out forcefully from its prison and slapped her cheek. She was stunned for a moment, then smiled gently and grabbed him and gave him stroking up and down, then gave him a kiss full of love. Her soft hand continued to move up and down and began to distribute kisses around his cock, then moved to his balls and began to give them kisses full of love. After distributing kisses around his entire cock and balls, his cock reached the highest level of hardness. Starsea placed his highness's cock on her face and made it rest on her beautiful face while she began to smell his cock and give kisses to his cock that was resting on her face with a collar around her neck and a chain in his hand and his cock resting on her face. Chaos felt that this alone was enough to make his cock start to release his load. You're doing a great job. Chaos didn't hold back his praise. Starsea wrapped her slender fingers around his cock and started rubbing his cock on her face as if she wanted to mark her face with his cock as his own. Her nose continued to inhale his cock and her mouth didn't stop kissing his cock. At the same time, tears leaked from Chaos's cock and fell on Starsea's beautiful face. But she didn't care and continued rubbing his cock all over her face. Her eyes continued to look at his highness with love and vigilance, noticing his reactions, what he liked and what he liked less. Chaos's cock trembled from the pleasurable feeling of rubbing her soft face against him. He closed his eyes in pleasure as his cock transmitted the pleasurable feeling of her soft skin and her gentle kisses on his shaft and the tickling breaths. Everything is yours to enjoy, my dear master. My face, my breasts, my hair, my mouth, my ass, my legs and my 3 holes. I will use every part of my body to serve you, your highness. Please just let me be by your side forever as your slave who loves you madly. Chaos opened his eyes as he felt his cock close to bursting. Satisfied with Starsea's words, he rubbed her hair. Don't worry, you will always be mine. He pulled the chain, causing Starsea to moan, who smiled even more. Her eyes flashed with joy, then looked at his cock, opening her mouth and swallowing him inside her in one thrust. Her hands grabbed his balls and gently teased them as her mouth devoured his cock. Chaos moaned softly as Starsea's warm, wet mouth swallowed his penis. Her lips were soft and warm, her tongue working skillfully over his sensitive head. Starsea continued to pleasure him with her mouth. Her tongue moved from his sensitive head and began to circle around the shaft. His hand moved to the back of her head, his fingers gripped her soft hair as she continued to serve him. With a thrust from his hand, he made her swallow his entire length, and his cock slid into her throat. Starsea moaned against his length, her eyes never leaving his. Holding her hair, he moved her as he pleased and his cock slid in easily. In and out of her throat. Starsea loosened her throat and moved her tongue to lick the lower side of his highness's cock while placing her hands on her thighs like an obedient slave and tool and allowed him to fuck her throat as he pleased with one hand holding her hair and fucking her face as he pleased and one hand holding the chain attached to the slave collar around her neck. The pleasure and enjoyment his cock was receiving was doubled. Chaos's breathing became ragged as he neared the edge. Starsea, you're doing so good. He panted, praising her as she continued to pleasure him with her tongue. His cock thrust in and out of her throat as her throat continued to expand and shrunk, which only motivated him more. I'm close. He groaned, giving her a few final deep thrusts with one last deep thrust inside her throat. His body shuddered as his cock began to release one spurt after another of his cum. Chaos tightened his grip on her hair as his cock kept shooting load after load. Only after his cock calmed down and stopped shooting did his grip on her hair loosen. Starsea swallowed every drop and then licked his cock clean. Chaos took a deep breath from the pleasure he had just experienced and pulled his cock out of his slave's mouth. There was a thread of saliva hanging between her swollen red lips and his glistening cock. She licked her lips with a smile. What's next, your highness? After calming down he got up from the couch. Let's go to the bedroom. With his hand holding the chain, Chaos walked while Starsea followed him on her knees, crawling on all fours like some kind of pet following its owner. The sight caused his cock to harden again with desire and he pulled the chain, making Starsea almost stumble. Crawl in front of me. Starsea did what he said and crawled in front of him, crawling on all fours while Chaos enjoyed looking at her plump ass from behind as she moved seductively. Tonight he will definitely fuck her beautiful ass from behind like a wild beast. My life is wonderful, he thought with a smile as he led his obedient slave who was acting like his pet to the bedroom. Soon the two reached the bedroom. Get on the bed. Starsea carried out what he said and watched his highness with a loving smile stop behind her after taking off his clothes, then started to touch her ass. Slap. Her plump ass was given several slaps. I won't wait any longer. I'm excited to conquer your asshole. He lifted her skirt and pulled down her white underwear and noticed a liquid running from her pussy lips. It seems someone is excited. Of course, your highness, just a touch from you is enough to drive your slave crazy. Her cheeks turned red as she answered him. Good, but I'll leave it for the second round. You know what I like more. He placed his cock at her asshole, then with one strong thrust he destroyed all defenses and reached the deepest point possible. Slap. Her butt trembled from the strong impact of his hips hitting her butt. Chaos grabbed Stasse's hair tightly and pulled her back, and at the same time he pulled her collar, making her choke, and her face looked at the ceiling of the room. "Your beautiful ass has made me so excited that my lust can't be quenched unless I destroyed your ass." He slowly pulled his cock out, and when only the head of his cock remained inside her asshole, he pushed his cock hard and hit her ass, making her ripple violently. He did it again and watched in enjoy as the ripples started from the point of impact and then spread all over Stasse's ass, and then he started to speed up. Starsea let out a moan as her ass turned into a mess that kept rippling from His Highness's strong and fast thrusts. Chaos went wild in fucking her, and his hand that was pulling her hair back pulled some strands of her hair with her hair and a leash in his hand, pulling her towards him to face his fierce thrusts. Starsea couldn't contain her moan as her ass turned into a mixed mess, constantly rippling from the force of His Highness's intense thrusts. "Slap slap," Chaos said while panting, his words interspersed with brutal thrusts. "Your asshole is so tight, just like always. So tight and wet for me and trying to pull me deeper." He looked at Stasse's face, flushed with desire and choking from the pull of her leash and her ass rippling with every impact, and he couldn't stop. Chaos fucked her mercilessly, his cock thrusting in and out of her tight hole with a primal rush. "Your ass is so hot, so tight," he growled between heavy breaths. "You were made for this, weren't you? Made to take my cock in your ass." Starsea couldn't help but moan in response. "Not only my ass, all my holes were made for your pleasure. Please feel free to use them however you please." "Very good." With her face pulled back inhumanly behind her back, it wasn't hard for the two to look at each other's faces. He released her hair, then grabbed her chin and leaned closer to her face to kiss her. The two engaged in a kissing session while Stasse's ass continued to ripple due to Chaos' endless thrusts, the room filled with the sounds of their bodies slapping and meeting. Chaos closed his eyes as he felt the immense pleasure his cock was receiving from sliding in and out of her tight asshole. With one last powerful thrust, his hips slammed into Stasse's ass, making her ripple violently. As his cock reached the deepest point possible inside her, he began to shoot load after load inside her asshole with each pulse of Chaos's veins. A hot load was released inside his slave's anus. Starsea continued her kissing session with His Highness, while below her head is her mercilessly fucked ass and His Highness's cock emptying his balls deep inside her ass. If one of her old acquaintances saw her in this state, treated like a piece of meat with a collar around her neck while a teenager empties his balls inside her asshole, they would be shocked. She used to give off a classy vibe and no one would think she would be in such a position, but she didn't care. Currently, she was happier and in a higher position than she was thanks to the young man behind her. She smiled internally as she felt his cock continue to ejaculate one hot load after another inside her. She estimated that this time had surpassed all previous times in terms of His Highness's passion and the amount of cum he ejaculated in one session. It is possible that she has become aware of one of His Highness's inclinations and desires. Her eyes couldn't help but show a touch of joy at her discovery. She continued the kissing session with His Highness, who stopped his aggressive kissing, and their kiss became softer until he parted from her with a thread of saliva between their mouths. Chaos looked at Stasse's red swollen lips and slowly began to withdraw his cock from her asshole. When his cock was completely withdrawn from her asshole, she closed her asshole and not a single drop of his cum came out. If she hadn't, a large amount of white liquid would have started to come out of her asshole. He patted Stasse's hair. "Good girl," without pulling the leash. Starsea returned to her normal self, although she was on all fours. She looked at His Highness sideways with a seductive look and shook her ass. "Your sex slave still has another hole to fill, Your Highness." Chaos nodded, gave her ass a slap, then looked at her pussy. Her pussy was soft pink, glistening with a slippery layer of wetness. The folds of her lips were red, inviting him to enter. He placed his cock at the entrance to her pussy and then pushed himself inside her. What welcomed him were her warm, wet, slippery walls. He grabbed Stasse's head and buried her face into the pillow, leaving her ass up. "This is going to be a long session. I'm going to make sure to fill your womb completely with my cum. Make sure to keep everything locked inside your womb. Soon we're going to the other world and I want you to protect me from any danger while your womb and asshole are completely filled with my cum." With her face buried in the pillow, she moaned to let him know she understood. "Good." He began to move his hips and the sounds of flesh meeting spread. Only the furniture in the room were a witness to the passion that had lasted between them for so long. Time is like a cloud in the sky. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, Chaos yawned, watching as Hancock, with a flushed face, helped him adjust his clothes. He couldn't help but pinch her cheek, causing her to jump back like a startled rabbit. She had eaten the devil fruit, just like in the original story. This instantly enhanced Hancock's charm severalfold, and her facial features began to develop into an even more beautiful form. Seeing Hancock's reaction, Chaos said with amusement, "Ha ha ha, alright, I won't tease you anymore. Go on, fix it." Hearing this, Hancock cast a reproachful glance at Chaos, her face slightly flushed with shyness. A far cry from the poised and confident Empress of Amazon Lily she would become in the future. Bowing, Hancock retreated. Chaos stretched and headed for the hall. Starsea and Zero were waiting for him. Chaos asked, "Is everyone here?" Yes, Your Highness. Starsea nodded respectfully. Everyone is waiting for you in Square One. Alright, let's not waste time. Let's go. Chaos nodded and set off. Today was the day to officially explore the other world. Everything was ready. The troops had been mobilized as well. The marine forces included Fleet Admiral Sengoku, Chief of Staff Tsuru, 1 Admiral, and 3 Vice Admirals. Chief of Staff Tsuru, 1 Admiral, and 3 Vice Admirals. The Admiral was Kizaru. The Vice Admirals included Garp and 2 others not featured in the original story. Additionally, several agents from the Cypher Pol Agents divisions had been dispatched. Chaos led the way. In a corner behind them, 3 girls in maid outfits stood, chatting. These were, of course, the 3 Boa sisters. The youngest, Marigold, nervously pinched the hem of her skirt and said with relief, "Sister, His Highness seems really different from the other celestial dragons." "Yeah, I've noticed that too. I heard the other celestial dragons are extremely cruel." "Sandersonia, where did you hear that?" "From the other maids. They've been in Mary-Ejos for a long time and know many things. They said the other celestial dragons take out their frustrations on their maids, using whips and other torture devices. The worst part is, we started as slaves, not maids. Slaves usually get branded with the celestial dragon's hoof mark. We were lucky to meet His Highness. Otherwise, I wouldn't have believed it." "Yeah, exactly." Sandersonia and Marigold smiled happily. As for Boa Hancock, she too was nervously fidgeting with the hem of her clothes. The thought of Chaos's smiling face made her feel that serving him wasn't so bad. At least they wouldn't be branded as slaves. They didn't have to fear constant abuse. At most. Suddenly, Hancock's face turned as red as an apple, almost glowing. Chapter 10, Invasion of the Otherworld. Chaos naturally didn't know what Hancock was thinking. At this time, Chaos had already arrived at Square One. Around 1,000 soldiers had gathered here. Not a massive number, but they were definitely elite forces. These included members from naval headquarters and Cypher Pol Agents organizations. If judged by rank, the weakest was at the captain level, and that too from headquarters. Additionally, the leaders included Sengoku, Garp, and others. Most importantly, the 5 elders were also attending. After all, this was the other world, and no one wanted to miss out. Unless someone was absolutely unable to go, they would definitely want to see it. "We greet His Highness Chaos." Except for the 5 elders, who smiled and nodded at Chaos, everyone else greeted him respectfully. By now, they were all aware of certain things. For instance, it was because of Chaos that the world government could access the other world. Also, they had learned more about Chaos's identity. Even Garp had a respectful expression on his face. No matter how much he despised the celestial dragons in his heart, he wasn't foolish enough to express his true thoughts. Chaos smiled and nodded. "It seems everyone is ready. If that's the case, let's not waste time. Let's go." After finishing his words, Chaos raised his right hand and snapped his fingers. A golden gate suddenly emerged. Immediately after, the door opened, and colorful lights blossomed. Many people's eyes filled with anticipation and excitement. A new world. I wonder what it's like. Didn't someone from the world government mention it yesterday? I'm not sure about the details, but apparently, there are monsters called zombies. They are humans infected with a virus, and if they bite us, we might turn into zombies too. So, we'd better take care of ourselves. Yeah, I heard that zombies have no rationality, so we should be really careful. Anyway, it's the other world, and I can't wait to explore. Quiet. As the gate to the other world opened, Chaos gave a straightforward command, "Move out." After saying that, Chaos was the first to step into the gate. The 5 elders followed. Then, everyone else. A sense of dizziness hit. When vision returned, the apocalyptic world came into view. Chaos had seen this scene many times before. It was nothing new to him. On the other hand, the others began to look around curiously, inspecting everything. "This is terrifying. Is this the other world? It truly looks like the end of days." Kizaru commented with his usual nonchalant tone, though there was a hint of shock in his eyes. Even though they had heard about the other world before, stepping into it evoked genuine fear. "Stop chatting and scout the area first. Then, set up camp here," the elder with the sword instructed after scanning the surroundings. Sengoku immediately nodded. Perhaps the commotion caused by their arrival was too loud, as a group of zombies began approaching from a distance. There were quite a few, hundreds, at least. Without waiting for orders, several Cypher Pol Agents members rushed forward, launching kicks into the air. A series of Tempest kick burst out. One by one, air blades sliced through the zombies. PFFT. 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 The zombies had no chance and were sliced in half. But what surprised everyone was that despite being cut in half, the zombies were still alive. They continued crawling toward the group. The sight made some people's scalps tingle. Their bodies are split in half, but they're still moving? One soldier exclaimed. Hearing this, Chaos explained, zombies can only be fully killed if you destroy their heads. They're also attracted to sound. While we are powerful, we still need to be careful. There are a lot of zombies in this world. There are probably hundreds of millions in this city alone. If we accidentally attract all of them, you can imagine the consequences. Hiss. Tens of millions? That's a terrifying number. Even Sengoku was stunned. He immediately issued an order without hesitation, move as quietly as possible. There weren't just Marines and Cypher Pol Agents members here. More importantly, Chaos was present. If Chaos were harmed, given his status in the world government, it would be disastrous. With that in mind, Sengoku even gave a special instruction to Kizaru. Kizaru, stay by His Highness Chaos's side, just in case. Understood. Kizaru nodded without objection. Like a bodyguard, he quietly positioned himself to the left of Chaos, observing the surroundings. The five elders had no objections to this arrangement. The more protection around Chaos, the better. They feared it might not even be enough. Now that they had entered the other world, their next moves would unfold step by step. The five elders and Chaos had already made decisions. One order after another was issued in an orderly manner. Marine forces, begin clearing the surrounding zombies and collect any items from the other world. Cypher Pol Agents troops, disperse and investigate all information about this city, focusing on technology and uninfected survivors. Everyone else, stand by. Yes. Everyone followed the orders and began acting. It was evident that, with the strength of the Marines, the zombies were being cleaned up quickly. Whenever a zombie was spotted, a Marine would step forward. In a flash, they would appear beside a zombie and deliver a decisive finger pistol to pierce its head. They were currently in a square, a place bustling with people in normal times. Naturally, there were many zombies here as well. But under the Marines' efforts, the number of zombies was visibly decreasing. Standing with the five elders, Chaos observed the scene and commented, "It's time for the scientific research team to come in and start examining these zombies." Agreed. The blonde five elder nodded. Vegapunk's team is ready. If all goes well, they'll arrive shortly. Also, after we stay here for a while, we'll be leaving. There's still much work to be done within the world government that requires our attention. At that time, this area will be handed over to you. With that, the blonde elder advised, "Your Highness Chaos, although the other world's resources are valuable, your safety is the top priority." Chaos smiled and nodded. "Of course I understand. Rest assured." Just as he finished speaking, a voice came from not far away. "Marshal, we found something inside a zombie's head." Chapter 11, Chaos, really noisy. "Something? What?" Sengoku asked immediately. The soldier handed over what was in his hand. It was a crystal. After Sengoku took it, he looked curiously, and after finding out that he was not sure, he walked towards Chaos. "Your Highness, this has just been discovered." Chaos didn't take it. Instead, Zero accepted it, cleaned it up carefully, and handed it to Chaos. "Interesting." Looking at the crystal in his hand, Chaos's eyes lit up, and a surprised smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Many of the novels I had read in my previous life could be considered to be playing a role in this moment. Isn't his crystal the brain nucleus of a zombie? Generally, there are zombie doomsdays with brain nuclei, but they usually belong to people with supernatural powers. This represents this world. For the world government, apart from those modern weapons, there is another precious resource. Thinking up to this point, Chaos ordered directly, "Let everyone pay attention to check after killing the zombies. If you find this thing, collect it immediately." "Yes." Sengoku took the lead and asked immediately, "Does your Highness know what this is?" Chaos shook his head. "There are guesses, but they are not accurate. Let's wait until the scientific research team comes in." Seeing this, Sengoku didn't ask any more questions and turned around to give instructions. Chaos had been standing there and was bored. After the five elders left, Chaos invited Starsea beside him. "Come on, walk around with me." "Yes, Your Highness." Starsea nodded immediately. Zero and Kizaru followed behind. Along the way, Chaos looked around. Basically, it can be determined that this city belongs to Japan. Some unique characters are easy to identify. Just didn't take a few steps. The buzz sounded suddenly. "Oh? Did something happen?" Kizaru looked curiously and subconsciously took a step forward, protecting Chaos behind him. Although Kizaru seems to be careless on weekdays, but at this time, he didn't dare to do that. The sound of car? Chaos naturally heard it and recognized it. In addition to the sound of the car, there was also the roar of a large number of zombies. Undoubtedly attracted by the sound of car. Looking in the direction of the source of the sound, Chaos raised his eyebrows immediately. He saw a school bus, being chased by a group of zombies, rushing towards this side frantically. The driver was a black-haired man with glasses, with a look of fear and madness on his face. After seeing Chaos and the others, his eyes lit up and his speed increased further. Originally, he was a little desperate. There were so many zombies chasing after the car, if they continued, they would definitely die. But now, he sees hope. Although he didn't know who these people were, as long as he used them to attract the attention of the zombies, he could definitely survive, right? Thinking of this, the color of madness in his eyes became even worse. Mr. Shido, what are you doing? Beside the man who was driving, a girl with yellow hair in a school uniform also saw Chaos and the others. Sensing what Teacher Shido was thinking, she couldn't help shouting in a hurry, trying to make Koichi Shido stop. But Koichi Shido didn't care at all, but said crazily, "Rei Miyamoto, shut up. Do you know the situation we are in now? There are so many zombies behind, if there is nothing else to attract them, can we escape? Blame these guys who just appeared in front of us. This is destined by God, and it is destined that they will sacrifice for us. Otherwise, we will all die." There are many people in the school bus. After hearing this, everyone nodded in agreement. Yes, yes, who made them so unlucky to appear there? As long as it keeps me alive, I don't care if they live or die. That is, it is an honor for them to sacrifice their lives for us to live. Mr. Shido is right. It's all predestined. Hurry up and let those guys attract the attention of the zombies. It's a pity, the blonde woman is really good looking, but she is going to die soon. Hearing these words, Rei Miyamoto couldn't help but widen her eyes, as if she didn't expect these people to be so cold-blooded. She couldn't help but look in one direction. There were 2 women and 2 men there, and one of them was her childhood sweetheart, Takashi Kamuro. Facing Miyamoto Rei's gaze, Kamuro knew that he was going to say something. But in the end, Takashi Kamuro shook his head and said in a low voice, "Teacher Shido is right. What's more, even if we change direction, do you think they can escape with the number of these zombies?" Hearing the words, Miyamoto Rei looked back. His face suddenly paled a little. There are too many zombies. Almost thousands. With this amount and this distance, even if they change direction, the zombies will still target those 4 people, right? And she doesn't want to die. Thinking of this, Rei Miyamoto couldn't help but fall silent. On the other hand, Sakobujujima, who has a sexy figure and holds a wooden knife in her hand, stared at the few people in front of her, but she had a bad feeling in her heart. Koichi Shido frantically increased the speed of the school bus and rushed straight towards Chaos and the others. Of course, he wouldn't hit it directly. That would just make them die here too. He would just pass by. In this way, the zombies would briefly focus on those people and ignore them. At that time, they would have a chance to escape. As long as he can survive, relying on his own ability, everyone in the entire school bus would be used by him. Doomsday World, that's great. Koichi Shido secretly thought about the appearance of the beautiful girls in the school bus, with a greedy look in his eyes. The distance was getting closer. Koichi Shido seemed to have seen the wonderful life after he escaped from death and then took control of these students. But at this moment, Koichi Shido was momentarily stunned and then exclaimed in his heart, what is he going to do? It was a tall man with an ordinary face. At this moment, he actively walked towards the front of the school bus. What is this trying to do? Stop the school bus? What are you kidding? The school bus is at extreme speed at the moment, how can flesh and blood stop it? Or did he want to die? Koichi Shido was full of doubts but stepped on the gas pedal again. The school bus engine hummed. Hit it mercilessly. Since you want to die, die for me. Koichi Shido roared in his heart. The school bus almost hit the ordinary man. But at this moment, the man slowly raised his hand and clenched it into a fist. The next moment, he punched out and hit the school bus. Under the terrifying force of the school bus, the man's figure remained motionless. However, under this punch, the entire school bus slammed on the brakes and was forcibly stopped. Under this punch, the front of the car was sunken and completely shattered. Everyone in the car fell down because of sudden braking. The sound of pain kept ringing. Chaos's eyes turned cold, with a little chill. The guy in this car just wanted us to be the victims of their escape? Looks like it does. Kizaru nodded, eyeing the people in the school bus with interest. People from other worlds. It doesn't seem to be any different, he murmured. At the same time, in the school bus, the students got up one after another, including Koichi Shido. Everyone looked ahead in disbelief. Dented front. And this seems to have been punched out just now? How can this be? How could humans have such power? Some people swallowed their saliva and couldn't believe it. But thinking about it in another direction, with such power, as long as you follow them, You don't have to worry about safety issues? There was hope in the eyes of some students. Koichi Shido also thought of this, but he noticed the marine cloak behind Kizaru more. His eyes lit up, and he got out of the car and ran towards Kizaru without hesitation. Seeing this, the students behind hurriedly followed. The zombies were getting closer. They didn't want to die. Marine, this dress, you are Marine, right? Yes, you must be Marine. Koichi Shido shouted excitedly as he approached. I am Koichi Shido, and my father is Counselor Koichi. I order you to save me and help me deal with those zombies behind me. And after solving the zombies, take me out of here. Marine? Mr. Shido is right, right? These people are Marines? Great, if it's Marine, coupled with a powerful force just now, they will definitely save us. The zombies are getting closer and closer, damn it, hurry up and take action. Since you are the army, you have an obligation to protect us. When the other students heard what Koichi Shido said, they became excited. Even ordered Kizaru to act quickly. Such a scene made Kizaru look weird all of a sudden but didn't move. Just kidding, he's a Marine but not a Marine of this world. And without Chaos's order, he wouldn't do it. All these other world creatures added up are not as precious as a single hair of Chaos. On the contrary, Chaos frowned and said in a low voice, it's really noisy. Hearing this, Starsea immediately took a step forward and shouted suddenly, shut up. The voice fell. But no one cared at all. Some students even became angry. What are you talking about? Didn't you see those zombies getting closer? Why didn't you make a move? You must have come to save us, right? Since you are here to save us, why waste your time? I don't want to stay here any longer. Koichi Shido looked at Starsea with a gloomy expression. He glanced at Stassea's figure with a flash of light in his eyes, and then said in a deep voice, Ma'am, I think I should have said that my father is Koichi Counselor, and I order you to. Boom. The words are not finished. Starsea slapped him with a backhand. A powerful force erupted mercilessly. It was just a slap, but Shido's head was abruptly severed and sent flying. Chapter 12, Be My Blade. Bang. Koichi Shido's body fell to the ground. Starsea roared with a cold expression. Didn't you hear His Highness say that you are so noisy? Shut up. As she spoke, she swept across the crowd with disgust in her eyes. Then she kicked out again, and the Tempest kick broke out, and the loudest people just now were cut off on the spot. The blood even dyed the students beside them bright red. For a while. Except for the roar of the zombies. Everyone fell silent on the spot. Others swallowed saliva. I couldn't believe that these guys who said they were Marines actually attacked them. And the shot was extremely decisive and merciless. What's even more ridiculous is that they actually wanted these people to protect themselves just now. Also accused them. Thinking of this, some students paled and hurriedly lowered their heads, fearing that they would be discovered and die at the hands of these people. Seeing these people quiet down, Starsea snorted coldly, then returned to Chaos and said respectfully, Your Highness, next? Go and deal with those zombies. Chaos ordered Kizaru. Hearing this, Kizaru nodded, and then looked at the attacking zombies, with the corners of his mouth raised, revealing a playful smile. Hey, there are so many zombies, it's really scary. But with the words, he raised his right index finger and pointed it at the zombie. A glint of light slowly lit up. Siko and the others looked up, their expressions shocked. Gulu. Then, what is that? Am I right? His fingers are glowing? Is this a superpower? Yes, for sure. Just now our car was obviously driving at a high speed, but it was stopped by a punch, and this person's fingers glowed. Isn't this a superpower? This is Japan. Comics are everywhere. Who hasn't read those comics where the main character has superpowers? Although it is unbelievable to appear in reality, the apocalypse has erupted. If you think about it carefully, it may not be unacceptable. Of course, what they are more curious about is whether they can get superpowers. It's just that with Stassea's strong suppression before, these people dare not ask at all. Can only stare at Kizaru's fingers. Then they all widen their eyes, as if seeing a shocking scene. A straight beam of light like a laser burst out from Kizaru's finger, and then fell into the crowd of zombies. Boom. A wave of terrorist explosions was generated. Like a missile falling to the ground, the violent fluctuations enveloped all the zombies in an instant. Terrible shockwaves swept in all directions. Some students were made to retreat again and again, almost being blown away. And when the light faded away, hundreds of thousands of zombies were all smashed to pieces. Even the ground exploded into a huge deep pit. Such power directly refreshed the world view of these students. Gulu. Fake? How can it be so powerful? Everyone was shocked. There is only one exception, and that is Siko Bujujima. Looking at Chaos and the others who remained unchanged even after killing hundreds of thousands of zombies, at that moment, Sakobujujima seemed to have found a confidant. Clutching the wooden knife in her hand, Sakobujujima was excited. I'm going to join them. This is where I belong. Sakobujujima thought about it, but her eyes fell on chaos. Anyone with a discerning eye can tell that these people are mainly chaos. And the noble temperament of the other party also makes people know the extraordinary status of the other party. Chaos naturally sensed Sakobujujima's gaze and couldn't help looking curiously. Seeing this, Chaos was surprised and immediately became invalid. Your Highness, did you find anything interesting? Starsea looked over and asked curiously, following Chaos's gaze. The expression in her eyes suddenly changed. Tall and sexy. She is also pretty. Rather, she is qualified to serve His Highness. Starsea thought so. Chaos naturally didn't know what Starsea was thinking. Facing Stassea's doubts, Chaos just kept smiling. I did find something interesting. Sakobujujima. Haven't noticed it before. Only now did I realize that among these students, there were many familiar people. Miyamoto-Rei with a stick. Wearing glasses, Saya Takagi with pink hair and twin ponytails, etc. Chaos thought about it. But immediately shook his head. None of this matters anymore. The important thing is that the appearance of Takashi Kamuro means that he has seen the original person. Not surprisingly, Takashi Kamuro, who is the protagonist of this world, must be related to the origin. Not only Takashi Kamuro, but those around him have some. And the origin is what Chaos needs to conquer this world. Although there are 3 ways to conquer, there is no doubt that the origin is the fastest way. Only should the original life be killed or conquered? When Chaos was thinking, Kizaru has returned and said with a slightly normal expression, Your Highness, everything has been resolved, but the movement just now should attract more zombies, right? For your safety, I think it's better for us to go back first. What do you think? Not in a hurry. Chaos waved his hand, just had a decision in his heart, and gave Zero a command. Zero nodded, and with a whoosh, the figure disappeared. Afterward, Chaos looked at Takashi Kamuro and the others. Being watched by Chaos, everyone became nervous. Someone plucked up the courage and asked, Then, who are you? If you don't want to take us away, can you let us go? Hearing this, Chaos glanced at him and said 2 words lightly. Shut up. The man shrank his neck immediately, not daring to say any more. Immediately afterward, whoosh, Zero is back. In his hand, he carried 2 zombies that he had caught from nowhere. The zombies were crazily biting at Zero, but unfortunately, under Zero's armament hockey, the zombies couldn't even scratch his clothes. Come here. Chaos waved at Sakobujujima. Sakobujujima looked puzzled, but she still walked in front of Chaos. Go. Chaos gestured to Zero, and Zero directly threw the 2 zombies in front of Sakobujujima. Chaos continued, I see the desire to fight in your eyes, go ahead, solve them and show me. The voice just fell. Suddenly Takashi Kamuro became angry. Damn, what do you want to do? Kill Bujima-senpai? That's a zombie. Chaos frowned slightly. Starsea noticed it and rushed out, instantly coming to Takashi Kamuro. You seem to have forgotten His Highness's order just now. Starsea said in a cold tone and then stepped on the ground directly. The tip of the sharp high-heeled shoe pierced Takashi Kamuro's leg with a little force. Painful screams sounded immediately. Hey, what are you doing? Rei Miyamoto, who was Takashi Kamuro's childhood sweetheart, got anxious, yelled hastily, and even waved a stick to rush over. But was immediately pulled back by Saya Takagi. Do you want to die? Shut up now. Do you think you can save him? Saya Takagi persuaded in a low voice, trembling all over. These people are really too scary. Not to mention holding a powerful force. And kill without blinking an eye. If she hadn't had a good relationship with Rei Miyamoto, she wouldn't have stood up at all. Hearing Saya Takagi's words, Miyamoto-Rei looked startled, then gritted her teeth and lowered her head helplessly under Stassea's cold gaze. Seeing this, Starsea sneered. A group of ignorant guys, you drove here just now, but are you planning to sacrifice our lives in exchange for your life? Based on this alone, if it weren't for His Highness's order, I would have broken your necks a long time ago, and you are still here disturbing His Highness. You really deserve to be killed. Saying that, she exerted a little force on her feet. The tip of the high heel almost crushed Takashi Kamuro's bones, causing him to make painful noises again. Chaos folded his hands, without any fluctuation, still staring at Sakobujujima. Although in this group of people, there are many familiar faces. But the only thing he was interested in was Sakobujujima. And at this moment, neither Takashi Kamuro's scream nor other sounds were enough to attract Sakobujujima's attention. Recalling Chaos's words in her mind, her body couldn't help trembling slightly. Not afraid, but excited. The suppressed desire in her body seems to be released. Roar, the roar of zombies sounded in her ears. Sakobujujima raised her head suddenly, with a fierce expression in her eyes that she had never shown before, and swung a wooden knife to cut off the zombie's arm. Then seizing the opportunity, she went down a few times in a row. Cut off all the limbs of the zombie, and finally the head of the zombie. This is not fighting. Strictly speaking, this is a massacre. But at this moment, Tsukubujujima's eyes showed a sense of joy. It seems that the depressed mood has been released. There was even an excited smile on the corner of her mouth. Your Highness has insight like a torch, and she is truly a fine seedling. Kizaru praised. Although crazy. But from the action point of view, it's a seed worth training. It can be said that this is a rough jade. As long as it is carved, the future will be extraordinary. But in terms of personality, it's hard to say. Pooh. Pooh. Swing the knife continuously. Tsuko's strength may not be strong among pirates. But among ordinary people in this world, they are also among the top. 2 zombies are not enough to pose a threat to her. After a few consecutive knives, the 2 zombies were dealt with. Chaos raised his mouth and clapped his hands. Good, very good. Don't you think I'm a pervert? Tsukubujujima raised her head and asked in astonishment. Whenever she fights, Tsukubujujima feels as if she has changed into a different person, with a strong tendency to violence, which makes her feel painful and has been deeply suppressing herself. Pervert? No. Chaos shook his head, came to Tsukubujujima, grabbed that delicate chin and praised. I think you are a very beautiful woman and a very good blade. As long as you train well, I think you will be a strong person. I like you very much. You shouldn't suppress your desires, follow me and become my own blade, how about it? Tsukubujujima is a kendo genius herself. Even if she has violent tendencies, she can suppress them very well. More importantly, this woman can really kill the enemy on the battlefield, and she can also wait at home for her husband to return home after the battlefield. It has the side of Yamato Nadko. Chaos has no shortage of women, but he is still very interested in such women. Hear this. Takashi Kamaro, who was stepped on by Starsea, raised his head suddenly, with an angry expression on his face. Do not know why. He was just angry. It was as if something important to me had been taken away. At the same time, feel jealous. Especially Tsukubujujima's dazed expression when Chaos grabbed her chin. Like a longing. Obviously, he has never been treated like this. Why? Takashi Kamaro shouted. Bujima-senpai, no, don't answer. The voice did not fall. But Tsukubujujima nodded excitedly. I would. A look of disbelief suddenly appeared in Takashi Kamaro's eyes. And at the same time, a voice emerged beside Chaos's ears. Get part of the source of the world, you are rewarded. Chapter 13, Terrible Rewards. The 2 hockey is full in 1 second. 2 rewards? Chaos was momentarily taken aback, a flash of surprise crossing his eyes. With just a thought, Chaos learned the specific details of the 2 rewards. The first reward allowed him to integrate certain areas of this world into his own world. The catch was that Chaos could choose which area to merge. To put it simply, Chaos could place the fusion area near the red line, or anywhere in the 4 seas. This freedom was important. If it was uncontrollable, Chaos wouldn't risk merging any area too soon. After all, the zombie virus might spread throughout the pirate world. He didn't want his own world to become an apocalypse. But now, there was no need to worry. Preparations could be made in advance. As for the second reward, it was even more remarkable. Viral genes could help people grow stronger, but they had a defect: most people would turn into zombies. However, this defect, as a reward from the double passing door, was completely fixed. And not only that, the viral gene was a perfect, evolved version. It was as though the gene had gone through 2 stages of enhancement. The effect would be extremely powerful. After considering it for a moment, Chaos decided to accept the second reward temporarily. For the first one, he would have to return and discuss it with the 5 elders. As soon as Chaos made up his mind, time seemed to pause. A warm current surged through his body. Every limb and bone was flooded with this energy. In the next moment, an overwhelming sense of power emerged out of nowhere. His physique and spirit began to soar. And as these attributes improved, other abilities naturally began to manifest. The first was his physique. This improvement granted him a body as strong as Charlotte Linlin's. Secondly, his spirit, which expanded to include 3 new abilities: quick memory, rapid learning, and mental suggestion. Boom, the sudden surge of power caused Chaos to unconsciously release a burst of aura from his body. Starsea and Kizaru both turned to Chaos in shock. Your Highness, what's happening? Starsea asked, pale with fear, worried something had gone wrong with Chaos. Chaos said nothing. He merely closed his eyes, quietly savoring the immense power coursing through his body. Powerful. So strong. Incredibly strong. Although I haven't compared it yet. Chaos murmured, the corners of his mouth lifting into a grin. Just in terms of physique alone, I'm probably on par with an admiral now. Before this, Chaos had barely any fighting strength. If someone had to measure it, he was probably no stronger than cannon fodder. But now, in just a moment, both his body and mind had surged to a level comparable to an admiral's, if not higher. This was an unbelievable leap. Moreover, his extended abilities were what Chaos valued the most. Setting aside the physique on par with Charlotte Lilin, it was the three mental abilities that intrigued Chaos most. Zero. Chaos suddenly called out. Immediately, Zero appeared before Chaos, kneeling on one knee. Your Highness, how may I serve? Explain armament hockey to me. Yes, Your Highness. Without hesitation, Zero stood and began demonstrating armament hockey, covering his body in the invisible armor as he explained its use. Chaos watched carefully, storing every detail in his mind. In the next moment, Chaos raised his hand and clenched his fist. An invisible armor materialized over his hand. This was armament hockey. In just an instant, Chaos had learned it. Both Kizaru and Starsea widened their eyes, shock evident on their faces. Even more astonishing, the invisible armor on Chaos' fist soon solidified, becoming visible to the naked eye. What did this mean? It meant Chaos hadn't just learned armament hockey instantly, but the proficiency of his hockey was increasing at an alarming rate. At first, the hockey only covered his fist. But soon, it expanded, covering his entire body. It wasn't until the armor encompassed him completely that it stopped. Your Highness. How? How is this possible? Starsea was so shocked, she could barely speak properly. The scene in front of them was hard to believe. Starsea wasn't alone. Even Admiral Kizaru was dumbfounded, staring at Chaos in utter disbelief. This is armament hockey? Chaos laughed, flexing his new power. He threw a punch. Boom, the ground trembled, a large crater forming as the earth cracked and sank. This is power. Zero. Continue. Chaos grinned. Next, show me observation hockey. Hearing this, Kizaru and Starsea exchanged nervous glances, both feeling a chill crawl up their spines. Chaos had already mastered armament hockey in mere moments. Now he was moving on to observation hockey? Was Chaos truly a descendant of a god? Not only could he open the gates to other worlds, but he also had this terrifying ability to learn at an impossible speed. In the whole world, who could compare? Sensing Stassea's curiosity, Chaos smiled faintly. You'll see soon enough. Zero, begin. Yes, Your Highness. Zero nodded and began demonstrating observation hockey, explaining its principles and applications. Under the intense gaze of Kizaru and Starsea, Chaos closed his eyes to focus. After a few moments, he grinned. Zero, attack me. Zero hesitated briefly but then stood up and attacked, pulling back some of his strength. Punch after punch flew towards Chaos. But Chaos, eyes closed, dodged them with ease. Kizaru watched, a complicated expression in his eyes. He had been considered a genius back in his day, excelling not just with his devil fruit powers but also with his learning speed. Even Zephyr had a love-hate relationship with him because of it. But now, watching Chaos, Kizaru couldn't help but feel like he was staring at a true monster. In front of Chaos, any so-called genius or monster was insignificant. Thankfully, Chaos was born into the world government. Kizaru couldn't begin to imagine the chaos this being would cause if he were a pirate. As Zero's attacks grew faster and faster, even surpassing the limits of regular observation hockey, Chaos dodged effortlessly. This could only mean one thing: Chaos observation hockey, like his armament hockey, was rapidly improving. The next moment, Chaos waved his hand, and Zero stopped. Chaos opened his eyes, a gleam of light flickering in them. Your Highness, have you already mastered observation hockey? Starsea asked, still in shock. As you guessed. Chaos smiled, nodding. His observation hockey had reached the top level. This, even though she had expected it, Starsea and Kizaru couldn't help but take a deep breath after hearing Chaos confirm it himself. Chaos, on the other hand, was already contemplating testing his third ability, mental suggestion. This ability was somewhat situational. It only worked on people much weaker than the user, allowing them to perform actions beyond normal understanding. The ability could be thought of as a use of mental power once it had grown strong enough. As it happened, Chaos observation hockey had scanned a suitable target nearby. His eyes flickered with intent, and he spoke. It's about time we head back. Upon hearing this, Starsea immediately turned and began walking towards Chaos. But at that moment, Chaos had another thought. Takashi Kamaro's head jerked up, eyes filled with hatred as he glared at Chaos. He quickly rushed at him, shouting, Die! No, stop! Rei Miyamoto screamed, trying to stop him. But Takashi Kamaro was unfazed, his eyes locked on Chaos. Seeing this, Stassea's eyes filled with cold determination. Enough. She spat. I've spared you several times, yet you still try to attack His Highness? It's time for you to die. Chapter 14, Another Reward, 5 Elders Plan. Starsea could hardly restrain her killing intent and unleashed her full strength without reservation, striking Takashi Kamaro's abdomen directly. Boom. Takashi Kamaro was blasted away like a cannonball, crashing into the distance and collapsing a building's wall. Ordinary people in this world are physically weak. In front of Starsea, they are like ants. With Starsea's unreserved explosive power, Takashi Kamaro was killed in a single blow. His entire body's bones were shattered. Such a scene made everyone around them tremble with fear, and they became even more aware of KO's status. None of them had the slightest ability to provoke him. Rei Miyamoto and Saya Takagi both gritted their teeth, holding back any sound. Takashi Kamaro had a good relationship with them, especially Rei Miyamoto, who had been childhood friends with him. Although there was nothing romantic between them, the bond was undeniably deep. Seeing Takashi Kamaro die before her eyes, Rei Miyamoto wanted to shout in anger, wondering why the attack had been so vicious. But remembering that Takashi Kamaro had been the one to attack first, Rei Miyamoto found herself at a loss for words. All of this seemed to be his own doing, and no one could defend his actions. Of course, none of them knew that it had all happened because of KO's mental suggestion. Now, with the death of Takashi Kamaro, a smile appeared in KO's eyes. Kamaro was indeed an original person, and with his death, KO's obtained more of the source. A voice echoed in his mind, obtaining the source reaches 50%, you receive the following rewards. 1. Some areas of the world are integrated, optional. 2. Remove weakness, hiss. KO's eyes lit up as he read the reward, and he became excited. Compared to before, this reward was extremely generous because it related to devil fruits. In simple terms, this reward allowed KO's to eat a devil fruit without suffering any of the usual weaknesses, and he could even eat 2. When that time came, KO's would be just like Blackbeard. But the difference was that KO's would not be vulnerable to seawater. Previously, KO's had been reluctant to eat any devil fruit, even though he knew the location of some powerful ones in this world. For example, there were mythical zone fruits in ancient Sleeping Town and Logia fruits on Sky Island. But now, with this reward, KO's suddenly became very interested in devil fruits. When we return, we can visit the world government's treasure trove. KO's murmured, rubbing his chin. Devil fruits are something rare and coveted by others, but for KO's, obtaining one was as simple as lifting a finger. No matter what kind of devil fruit he desired, KO's could acquire it immediately. Even if it wasn't in the world government's treasure trove, he was sure it would be found among the celestial dragon's homes. With this thought, KO's began to look forward to it. He wondered if he could find a devil fruit that suited him. Shaking his head, KO's stopped thinking about it and prepared to head back. Starsea asked, Your Highness, what about these people? KO's glanced around, thought for a moment, and then gave his orders, take them back and leave them with Sengoku to handle. These people would likely become his followers in the future, and saving them now would be worthwhile, as they might one day contribute to his cause. Not to mention, among them were a few original people whom KO's could not afford to ignore. With the source already reaching 50%, 30% had been contributed by Takashi Kamaro and 20% by Sakobu Jujima. This confirmed to KO's that, whether through subduing or killing, he could still collect the source. This realization made it much easier for him to deal with other original people. Hearing KO's orders, Starsea nodded, while others were visibly worried. Saya Takagi mustered her courage and asked, Excuse me, but where are you taking us? Kizaru, as Marine, gave a somewhat kind smile and replied, Little girl, there's no need to worry. As long as you don't offend His Highness, you'll be safe. In fact, we're taking you to our base nearby, which is very secure. Understand? Although Kizaru's smile was eerie, his words were reassuring, and the students instinctively believed him. After all, Kizaru's power was overwhelming, and they couldn't imagine someone so strong lying to them. Moreover, with no other place to go, they subconsciously followed KO's and his group toward the base. World Government Headquarters. In a luxurious room, the 5 elders were in a meeting. The elder with a sword casually tossed a document on the table and spoke calmly, The God-making plan is nearly complete. The 748 orphanages and 341 churches we've established worldwide are ready. With a single order, the children in these orphanages can be brainwashed into devout followers of chaos. The idols in the churches will be smashed and replaced with images of chaos. So, should we begin? The other elders picked up the document and examined it. After a while, the elder with a pointed beard spoke gravely, We should wait a little longer before activating the plan. Yes, the God-making plan should coincide with the emancipation of slaves to maximize the impact. Another elder added. When we emphasize KO's greatness during the liberation of slaves, we can manipulate the masses into becoming followers. Tens of thousands will easily become hundreds of thousands, even millions. The elder with the sword nodded in agreement, then asked, "How is the preparation for the slaves going?" The blonde elder thought for a moment before answering. "The slaves in Mary Ejos, including those under the celestial dragons, are being organized. We've also sent Cypher Pol agents to contact slave traders globally, purchasing and capturing more slaves. At this rate, the total number of slaves should exceed hundreds of thousands." "Yes, that number is sufficient." The elders nodded in unison. As the 5 elders, their plans were always on a grand scale. Even though they would soon liberate the slaves, they had no qualms about capturing more beforehand. After all, they could easily place the blame on the slave traders, while KOs would be revered as a savior. Particularly, the merman slaves had recently become a top priority for the 5 elders. By liberating the merman slaves, they could also earn the favor of Fishman Island, furthering their global strategy. Chapter 15, What Are You? Celestial Dragon's Villa Area. Following the orders of the 5 elders one by one, the Cypher Pol agents members of the entire world government took action. They were tasked to go to each celestial dragon's villa and gather the slaves. Although there was still some time before the god-making plan would be initiated, the 5 elders naturally had to prepare ahead of time. At the very least, from now on, they would begin to gather the slaves and give them a glimmer of hope. "Because of His Highness Chaos, you may be released. His Highness Chaos is working hard for your freedom, so if you are released, you'd better remember to be grateful," a Cypher Pol agents member said to a slave while taking them from a celestial dragon. As for the actions of the Cypher Pol agents organization, there was basically no resistance from the celestial dragons. They knew they couldn't resist, especially since the leaders of this operation were celestial dragons themselves. Now, outside Leopold Street's villa, a Cypher Pol agents member knocked on the door. Soon, a servant opened it. The Cypher Pol agents member said directly, "Please inform Lord Leopold. I am here to deliver the orders from the 5 elders." Upon hearing this, the servant hurriedly nodded and went back inside the villa. After a short while, Leopold arrived. The Cypher Pol agents members saluted. "I greet Lord Leopold Saint." Leopold waved them off impatiently. "Really, don't you know I'm busy playing with the woman I just captured? It's really annoying to issue orders at this time. If you have any announcements, spit them out quickly. Maybe I'll still have time to go back and continue." The Cypher Pol agents members remained calm, showing no emotion. "From now on, all the slaves in your villa will be taken away, and no more slaves are to be purchased in the future." "What?" Leopold's expression immediately changed, and he flew into a rage. "Are you sure you got that right? If you're lying to me, I'll shoot you right now." "Sorry, Lord Leopold, I'm certain this is the 5 elders' order." "Get lost. This is impossible. Absolutely impossible. How could the 5 elders issue such an order? I don't agree. I bought my slaves with money, so why should I hand them over to you? Get out of here." Leopold Saint refused without hesitation, his face full of anger. Slaves were precious to the celestial dragons, their greatest joy. In fact, to some celestial dragons, slaves were even more valuable than devil fruits. Letting someone take their slaves away was tantamount to stealing their most beloved possession. Worse still, not being able to purchase slaves in the future was an even greater blow than killing a celestial dragon. While other celestial dragons might react differently, Leopold Street was the first to refuse. "I won't accept this ridiculous order. Go back and tell the 5 elders that I will never allow anyone to take my slaves." Despite Leopold's outburst, the Cypher Pol agents member remained unfazed. "Lord Leopold, please don't make this difficult." "Humphrey, so what if I do? Do you think you can break into my castle?" Leopold sneered, pulling out a delicate pistol and aiming it at the Cypher Pol agents member's forehead. "I'm warning you, leave now, or I'll shoot." The Cypher Pol agents member sighed helplessly, then stepped back, took out a phone snail, and dialed a number. After describing the location of Leopold's villa, he hung up and waited quietly. Seeing this, Leopold's face darkened with a growing sense of dread. In the next moment, the sound of footsteps echoed. Leopold turned to look and saw a tall, blonde woman approaching. She wore a white robe, but upon closer inspection, a black bodysuit hugged her figure beneath it. Her legs were wrapped in black stockings, and she wore a pair of red high heels. "Eleanor, what are you doing here?" Leopold asked, his face turning pale. Eleanor, a woman of formidable stature and one of the elite celestial dragons, approached without responding to Leopold. Instead, she turned to the Cypher Pol agents member. "Did he refuse?" "Yes, Lady Eleanor." The Cypher Pol agents member replied respectfully. It was clear from the title that this woman was also a celestial dragon, But her status was far higher than Leopold's, as she was part of the elite faction. No wonder Leopold's face had turned so ugly. Eleanor looked at Leopold indifferently. Leopold, he should have informed you about this notice. Why did you refuse? Tell me the reason. Why? This order is absurd. Why should I hand over my slaves? They're my property, and I won't accept this. Leopold shouted angrily, though his tone had noticeably softened. Eleanor remained silent, her calm gaze exerting immense pressure on Leopold. Despite his fear, he still gritted his teeth. I don't care. I won't let you take my slaves. Eleanor slowly took out a cigar, placed it between her lips, and the Cypher Pol agent's member beside her immediately lit it. Inhaling deeply, Eleanor exhaled a cloud of smoke and spoke slowly. I'll give you one more minute to reconsider. Don't make me whip you. Her calm words sent a shiver through Leopold. He knew Eleanor wasn't bluffing. Among the celestial dragons, only those of higher status could suppress others, and that was the case now. Leopold's face twisted in frustration. He wanted to refuse again but realized that Eleanor's presence meant the order was likely serious. As much as he disliked it, he couldn't defy the five elders. Reluctantly, he agreed. But then a thought crossed his mind, and his eyes lit up. Eleanor, are you sure all the celestial dragon slaves are being taken away? Eleanor gave him a sharp look. What are you trying to say? Leopold sneered, recalling Chaos. I have to tell you, there are slaves in Chaos' household. They were taken from me before, so maybe you should. Smack. Eleanor, wearing her white silk gloves, slapped him, cutting off his words. All the servants immediately lowered their heads. Leopold stood in stunned silence, his face stinging. Then he erupted. Why did you hit me? Damn it, I'm going to report this to the five elders. You have no right to treat me this way. Smack. Before he could finish, Eleanor slapped him again. As she thought of Chaos, a look of admiration flickered in her eyes. She then glared coldly at Leopold, whose face was filled with disbelief. Leopold, don't blame me for not warning you. Next time, remember to address Chaos as His Highness. There are things His Highness Chaos can do that you cannot. Who do you think you are? Do you think you have the right to compare yourself to His Highness Chaos? Eleanor's voice was icy as she delivered her warning. If you forget again, don't blame me for hitting you. She scoffed inwardly. Useless fool. Just like in the God-making plan, your only remaining value is to absorb faith and offer it to His Highness Chaos. Your continued existence is nothing but a waste of Mary Ege Ozair and the world government's resources.